All we've got to do now is to start pumping.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fully Inflated Football Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Whitman. Today, we will be recapping every game from NFL Week 3. It was a wild Week 3 where a bunch of kick-blocked field goals really shook up a lot of the league, all within what felt like a 5-minute span. Just a very fun, very crazy Week 3. A lot of great games to react to, and some games that, I'll be honest, we're not going to spend quite as much time on this week. Some blowouts at hand this week as well. But very much looking forward to today's episode. Just one piece of housekeeping, though, before we do get started. I will be heading to Cancun with my wife from Saturday through Wednesday for a little mini bye week here, early mid-season. Just so you know, next week's content schedule won't be the same. To be determined if I do like power rankings from the beach type of deal. Might be fun. But obviously by the time I get back, like Thursday morning, we'll be already kind of into the next week of football. So I definitely won't have a weekly recap episode of the podcast next week. But should be good to go for the weekly preview episode with Garrett on Friday. And then, to be determined if I have any other content in there next week. So just bear with me there for a week, and then we'll be back to the regularly scheduled content as we head into week 6, right? Yes, my schedule is correct there. But without further ado, let's get started. And I want to begin by recapping the game that I was, I think, most excited for this weekend. That was the Rams at Eagles game, a really fun matchup. And man, this game really delivered on its hype. Just a super resilient comeback win for the Eagles, really a tale of two halves type of game where for the first half, I was super impressed by the Rams and honestly their resiliency to respond from an early interception from Matthew Stafford. So often when you get to an early deficit against this Eagles team, they just kind of pounce on you and get to live in that run the ball, play defense script that the Eagles prefer to play from. And I was impressed originally by the Rams' ability to respond very quickly and kind of flip the script back on the Eagles. So normally I would, start with the winning side of the game, talk about their side of things, then kind of talk about the losing side of things. This one, to me, I think makes more sense to just kind of go through the story of the game, start with the Rams, because they were how this game started, and then finish with the Eagles and how they came back in this game. But yeah, everything was working for the Rams early in this game. They actually ended up with 26 unanswered points after that early interception from Matthew Stafford sets up the short field for the Eagles to take that early lead. But after that, the defense started playing great. It was a continuation of being impressed by Chris Shula and this defense. He put together multiple passing downs, blitz looks that flustered this Eagles passing game. I was really impressed by their ability to slow down and even stop the run early in this game. That was the big matchup to watch coming in, right? You kind of have this undersized Rams defensive line going against that outrageously talented Eagles run game. And the Rams played up to their competition in the first half of this game. They loaded up the box. They tackled, they played physical, really impressed by the effort of the Rams defense. Got to also shout out Quentin Lake, my dude, was a total draft sleeper coming out. He has totally emerged as one of the better just slot defenders in the league, slot corners, slot safety, whatever you want to call him. He was all over the field in the first half of this game. And then the offense was doing their part. You got Matthew Stafford out there. He's got the big chunk play to Davante Adams, beautiful throw. It was a push-off by Davante Adams, those subtle offensive pass interferences that unfortunately do not go called as often as they should be. But to be fair, the Eagles got one later in the game, so at least it was officiated fairly for the most part there. But still, a great throw from Stafford to get the big connection to Adams. Puka was awesome all game long. He's been just unstoppable this season. Both running backs and the Rams run game were playing really well. Kyron Williams, I tweeted it out, but it felt like he was playing with the Mario star in this game. He was breaking tackles, running hard. He was really impressive. And even the Rams special teams was a tale of two halves. In the first half, they were really having fun out there with these kind of knuckleball kickoffs. They really seem to have cracked the code of these new kickoff rules. The Eagles kept getting really bad starting field position because they couldn't field these kicks that are just wobbling down the field. So the Rams really had everything figured out in the first half, and it was all Rams. It looked like they were maybe going to win this game convincingly, and that the Eagles were like, this narrative that they're kind of struggling to pass the ball, that they don't maybe look like last year's Eagles. For the first 30 minutes of this game, and even into the start of the third quarter, it felt like, the Eagles were maybe in trouble here, but really at about the 25 minutes to go mark, about 10 minutes into the third quarter or so, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown just said, "Hold my beer, we've got this," and they flipped a switch, and the Eagles offense took over this game. And this was a huge deal, not just for them to come back and win this game, but as you talk about the Eagles moving forward, considering how bad especially A.J. Brown looked for the first 2.5 games of this season and how much we know he means to this passing game, it was just the biggest of deals for the Eagles for this turn of events to happen. But this all started coming out there, kicking off this comeback with a huge chunk play to A.J. Brown, a beautiful double move. The Rams love to play that off coverage style of zone defense, and really the best way to get explosive plays off of that, at least to the perimeter, are going to be double moves. And A.J. Brown said, I know I've kind of looked a little stiff and potentially like injured / out of shape for the first 10 quarters of football this season. That's really been a legitimate criticism of A.J. Brown. Anybody that's watched that tape, you'd be able to say, like, he's not moving like he normally does. But all of a sudden, flip of a switch again, he runs a quick-hitting double move, burns the corner, gets a step of separation deep, looks super athletic on that route, and then a beautiful throw from Jalen Hurts, beautiful over-the-shoulder, kind of reels it in, I think even with one hand from A.J. Brown. But that just kick-started things. And then right after that, you've got the coverage bust touchdown. Eagles get the ball back, and Jalen Hurts, frankly, leads a really nice, composed touchdown drive. Just some subtle completions in full control. Like, total credit to Jalen Hurts. He completely settled down, and the play calling improved as well, which was a legitimate criticism for the first, again, 10 quarters of this Eagles start to the season. But the passing game just totally settles down. They're making quick completions. They're getting Devontae Smith involved. And then that second drive there gets capped off by a beautiful A.J. Brown back shoulder touchdown. That was the push-off, in my opinion, on A.J. Brown. Maybe a slight flop by Darius Williams, but definitely push-off from A.J. Brown. But again, eye for an eye. Devontae Adams did it early in this game, so at least the refs didn't let that impact the game there. And then after that, the defense puts the clamps down again. The Rams trying to drive, take back control of this game. The Rams end up in a 4th and 1 situation, and Jordan Davis just annihilates a run, getting the stop on Bo Limmer, who's in there at right guard. Just honestly, one of the bigger statement games from Jordan Davis in this one, but the defense doing their part to help this comeback happen. Obviously, anytime you've got to come down from 26-7, you need some help from your defense as well. And the Eagles defense, we know, is spectacular, and they really bunkered down and deserve their credit late in this game too. But right after that 4th down stop, the Eagles get a short field. And the Rams defense did actually answer back. You got a Don Shula blitz on 3rd down that flushes Jalen Hurts out of the pocket. So the Rams actually get a huge stop there, get the ball back, and then go on a field goal drive. But that's where the Eagles special teams answered back. Again, the Eagles special teams struggled in the first half with the bad field position and the kick returns, but really all three phases for both teams flipped in the second half. And that's where the Eagles special teams began to dominate with their first of 2 kick blocks. That was huge in this game, because if the Rams make that kick, there's 8 minutes left. They go up 29-21. Put themselves in a really good position, but instead you get the field goal block, giving the Eagles not just an opportunity to go take the lead with a touchdown, but also a much better field position as well. But then after that field goal block happens, it becomes truly the A.J. Brown show, where he's getting one-on-one looks on the outside against very undersized cornerbacks. That is one of the downsides to this Rams defense, is they've built their secondary in a way that they're not afraid to have these kind of outlier types of cornerbacks, guys like a shorter Darius Williams, a very skinny Emmanuel Forbes. Because when you play that off-zone style, you don't really need to play that physical press man coverage and get in receivers' faces. But if you run a hitch route right at the guy, inevitably that cornerback's going to have to play physical, and that's a problem when that wide receiver is A.J. Brown. So on this final drive, the Eagles have fully discovered this matchup problem. They see A.J. Brown out there kind of playing with his hair on fire, kickstarting his season, and really on that go-ahead end of game drive there, they get 2 huge 3rd and 10 completions simply throwing a hitch route to A.J. Brown. The first one was on Darius Williams, where he just naturally boxes out Williams at 5'9". There's just no way for him to contest this football. So Brown makes the catch, turns upfield a little bit, and then just a few plays later, it's another 3rd and 10, and the Eagles don't overcomplicate it. They go right back to the hitch route. This time it's Emmanuel Forbes trying to cover him, who Emmanuel Forbes is like infamous for losing against A.J. Brown when he was on the Commanders. And we talked about it then, where it was like, why is this would have been Ron Rivera sticking Emmanuel Forbes on A.J. Brown? Like, that might be the biggest weight differential from a wide receiver cornerback matchup in NFL history. I mean, you're talking about one of the heavier wide receivers in A.J. Brown, who plays at about 225, maybe even 230. Like, he is looking thick these days, against Emmanuel Forbes, who plays at like 160. Like, you're talking about an 80-pound difference there. So that is not the matchup you want if you're the Rams, and the Eagles knew it. So they just, again, don't overcomplicate it. The Rams don't like shade the coverage towards A.J. Brown, so they just throw the hitch route there. And as you would expect, Forbes can't get in position because he's also bad at coverage. He's not just 160 pounds, but he has no idea what he's doing out there. But he tries to come in and tackle him late. A.J. Brown just shrugs him off and turns upfield for like another 20 yards. So that game-winning drive was just the total A.J. Brown show. And then Jalen Hurts finishes it off. I think everybody thought down in the red zone. Even then, I figured the Rams would do like the Calvin Johnson double team thing. Like, Matthew Stafford himself might have even walked over to Shula and say, hey, when I was throwing to Calvin Johnson, they eventually just put 2 cornerbacks in front of the guy to stop this Megatron really from catching the ball, which is relevant because the commentators in this game did a great job highlighting that A.J. Brown is literally a transformer out there. He is such a freak. But no, the Rams did not do that. They could have thrown another back shoulder, but instead, they actually end up with Devontae Smith on Emmanuel Forbes in the slot. Jalen Hurts waits for him to get open, throws a nice, accurate out route, and the Eagles take the lead. So the Eagles' passing game just totally woke up. They go take the lead. Incredible comeback. But even then, the Rams had a chance with 1.5 minutes left to push back and go win the game. And Matthew Stafford does his thing. He throws like 3 haymakers to Puka Nacua, who was just awesome on that potential game-winning drive. They line up to kick the game-winning field goal after all of this to still walk out of this game with a win. And again, blocked kick. Jordan Davis picks it up, returns it for a touchdown. And for those of you following my Patreon picks, brutal bad beat for us because we picked the Rams to cover a 3-point spread. And even if they miss that kick, they still lose by 2 points. But no, meaningless kick return, kick block return touchdown, but an incredibly fun play for Jordan Davis. to take that thing back to the house. And that is game on what was just a fantastic, fun matchup, lived up to the hype. As far as our takeaways from this game, I think from the Eagles' perspective, it's pretty obvious. It was huge for them to rediscover their passing game, get that confidence on that side of the ball, see A.J. Brown healthy, in shape, playing dominant, see Jalen Hurts able to kind of pick a defense apart, and both those guys together playing really well, Devontae Smith as well. While we obviously spent a lot of time praising A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts does deserve a lot of credit for just sort of not being phased. The clutch factor from him was absolutely on display in this game. That's something that I do praise Hurts for, is even when his team is losing in fourth quarters, he is just cool, calm, and collected. And that was very much on display in this game. But he had a handful of subtle throws, not to A.J. Brown in this game, that were just good reads, keeping drives alive. He had a good read option run in there as well. So, like, Jalen Hurts was fantastic in the second half of this one. And then, you know, if you're a Rams fan, I don't think you're super defeated by this loss either. Like, this could have looked a lot worse. I think you at least walk out of this feeling good that you can clearly hang with the Eagles. Like, you're not going to just get ran all over. The run defense struggled a little bit more down the stretch, but the fact that they can come out and, you know, at least slow down this Eagles offense and pass against this and run, frankly, against this Vic Fangio defense, it does just kind of feel at this point like we're heading for a rematch of this game. These two teams are it's hard to call it a rivalry because the Eagles have won this every single time, but the Rams keep getting closer and closer to winning this matchup. And it does feel like this is kind of destined for a playoff rematch. And, you know, I think if you're an Eagles fan, you look at what the Rams did and you're like, man, they did not make that game easy on us. If we don't have 2 blocked field goals, we lose this game in Philadelphia. So I don't think you feel dejected if you're a Rams fan, but there's clearly some things that they need to fix. Number one is obvious. Like, Emmanuel Forbes cannot be out there. Like, you should probably cut Emmanuel Forbes. He's been bad and was just a complete liability in this game, not just late where he was just getting posterized late in this game, but on that first drive as well, when the Eagles scored, like the one time the Eagles scored in the first half, when they got the short field after the Stafford interception, that drive doesn't happen if Emmanuel Forbes isn't so bad. Like, the Eagles go for it on a 4th and 2, and they run a read option right at Emmanuel Forbes, and he's the only player on that play that would have been in a position to tackle Hurts before he gets the first down because he kept it. And Cam Latu, the former 3rd-round pick for the Niners, who's like the Eagles' backup tight end, literally, I shit you not, gets a one-arm pancake block on Emmanuel Forbes. He's just running up to the second level. He just puts one arm on Forbes, and Forbes goes flying back, and then Hurts has this vacated space to get the 4th down conversion. And then a few plays later, the Rams actually forced the Eagles into a 3rd and 12, but they target Emmanuel Forbes on an in-breaking route from Devontae Smith, and Forbes just horrible coverage on the play, easy completion for Hurts, sets up a 4th and 1 tush push for the Eagles. So Forbes had a horrible game. He should not be out there for the Rams at all. So they got to fix that. They got to find someone else to play corner. And then the other obvious thing the Rams have to fix is their field goal block protection situation. I'm not a special teams guru by any stretch of the imagination, but they had 2 field goal blocks this week, and I think they had another one blocked against the Titans the week before. So they have some issues to fix there. And then the last thing too that like maybe is a little bit more of a red flag on the Rams coming out of this one is because the other 2 things seem pretty easily fixable to me, like just not playing Emmanuel Forbes and not having every field goal get blocked. That seems pretty fixable to me. But the last thing here that might be a little bit more of an issue for the Rams is that their short yardage capabilities are pretty limited right now. And you felt that in this game. There was a bunch of moments, like obviously the 4th and 1 that they didn't convert, but there was a couple moments down in the red zone that you do definitely feel like the lack of Matthew Stafford's mobility hurts their ability in short yardage situations. And I just think that Sean McVay has got to really get in the lab and start to kind of stash some more creative plays in these either goal line or 4th and 1 situations. Again, Sean McVay is a much better offensive mind than me, so I don't know exactly what those plays need to be, but they have to have, whether it's gimmick plays or different route combinations that can help them convert these short yardage spots, because you don't have the threat of a read option or, the QB like bootlegs and stuff. Like Matthew Stafford is, I would say, by far the slowest QB in the league, even more than like Aaron Rodgers, maybe. Like he just, there was a play where he is trying to run, he's trying to scramble for a first down. I think it was the play before the 4th and 1. He breaks out of the pocket and he's got like daylight, like you would expect, like a 5 to 10 yard run, and a defensive tackle chased him down. It might have even been Jordan Davis, but the fact that you're not just like, how can I word this? Jordan Davis is gaining ground on you as you're scrambling for, hopefully, to move the sticks on a 2-yard run. Like he easily had the angle, Matthew Stafford, and Jordan Davis gained ground to run him down. Like it was eye-opening. Like, man, he cannot really move out there. So that's kind of maybe one fatal flaw of the Rams offense right now. But yeah, just a hell of a game. I think you walk out of this game probably feeling better about both teams, honestly, especially the Eagles for rediscovering their passing game there. So excellent battle. Now, before we go to our next game recap here, I want to thank the sponsor for today's episode, Underdog Fantasy. You guys, this week might be the week to sign up on Underdog if you haven't already. I don't know if you've seen the Monday night doubleheader matchups, but not exactly the best. Dolphins, Jets, and Bengals, Broncos. And Underdog Fantasy Pick'ems are the best way to help get you through some of these one-off matchups and enjoy the game much more than you normally would. Through these Pick'ems, you are selecting player stats, higher or lower, so you can lean into a bad game. You can see it down to the wire. If you wanted to go lower on, like, say, Jake Browning's passing yards, that'll keep you invested all the way through. Or if you want to take a higher prop on a wide receiver, see if you can get that 5th reception in the 4th quarter, whatever it might be. These can be low-level entries with massive payouts. So even if you do lose, sometimes it feels like you win because you got a fun Monday night out of it. You know you're going to sit there watching these games anyway, because I know you guys are sickos just like me, and when there's football on, you have to watch it. But you might as well enjoy it a little bit more. So that's one of the biggest ways I love Underdog Fantasy. But it's obviously great for Sundays as well to go find those big matchups that you like, to really outthink the numbers and really get a chance at some big winnings and have a lot of fun in the meantime. So if you sign up using code TFG, right now, they will give you a bonus match, and you will support my channel big time in the process as well. So I really appreciate you guys using code TFG. If you're signing up, please do play responsibly. And with that, let's go to our next game, which is the Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens, Monday Night Football. This was an epic Monday night one-off matchup. Really enjoyed live streaming this with Garrett from the Football Analysis YouTube channel, and hanging out with you guys for this one was a blast. But yeah, just what an unbelievable all-around statement win for the Detroit Lions, who after that week 1 blowout against Green Bay, I don't think anybody was like writing off the Lions, but they did kind of feel like old news a little bit, right? Like we were starting to kind of look at the NFC and thinking, at least in my mind, maybe even if it was in the back of my mind, it was like some of these other teams like the Packers and the Bucks and the Rams maybe getting pushed to the forefront of our minds in the NFC, with Detroit maybe taking a little bit more of a back seat after week 1. But the last 2 weeks, it's been like, no, if we're the Lions, you're saying we're on the forefront of your minds. We might be the best team in the NFC. And this was a statement type of win for Detroit. And I want to have some fun in this conversation and kind of divvy up the credit pie for this game because there's just too much credit to go around for how they've gotten back to this place. But first things first, I'm going to cut a huge slice and give it to Dan Campbell, who his talents as a head coach were on full display. And I talked about this in the Lions deep dive. This being kind of a big year for Dan Campbell, not a prove-it year that anyone was doubting him or anything, but this was the first year where like, okay, you lost both your coordinators, you're this CEO-style head coach, you kind of preach this culture, and I've talked about how the Lions have this kneecap-biting mentality that you feel the culture of the Detroit Lions seeping its way into their play more than any other team in the league. There was a world that a lot of this, the Dan Campbell of it all, was going to fade away from this offseason, right? The coordinators leaving, having that kind of heartbreaking loss. Can you really continue to have this physical, like over physical mentality as a football team heading into the next year? It was just going to be a big challenging year for Dan Campbell. And to me, this game was a statement from Dan Campbell in so many ways. Number one, with that kneecap biting mentality. It's not a meme, right? This is who the Lions are. And they came out in this game as road underdogs, and they were the more physical team. They run blocked their ass off in this game. It was a big David Montgomery night, a lot of broken tackles, and just the overall physical nature of this team was on full display in this matchup. So the Dan Campbell of it all was evident in that perspective, but also with the coordinators, right? That was a big question. And John Morton had a day. And this was Dan Campbell's decision to go bring him back over from Denver, someone that was in Detroit previously, but they could have, Detroit, hired internally with Tanner Engstrand, I think, who followed Aaron Glenn to be the Jets offensive coordinator. And it's not that Engstrand by default wouldn't have had success here in Detroit, but John Morton was their guy. They went and got him, and he was great last week against the Bears, and he had a hell of a day here for Detroit. And I thought the Calvin Shepard defense, Calvin Shepard's going to get a slice of this pie later on, but it was, a big answer for Dan Campbell in that sense too, like replacing his coordinators. Like there were no questions coming out of this game if they were coached well on either side of the ball. And then all the way down to the aggressive, like fourth down decisions too. That's the other aspect of the Dan Campbell conversation. And they go for it on a 4th and 2 late in this game. They try to seal this game away with their offense, as they like to do, and they do in wonderful fashion. So everything related to Dan Campbell was on full display in this game. That was the biggest kind of storyline from this one for me. So Dan Campbell gets the first slice of pie, but there's other aspects too that we need to talk about with Detroit. So I'm going to cut 2 more slices of this pie, and I'm going to give one to Jared Goff and one to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Both these guys had just, I don't want to say career games, because I didn't go back and track the stats or anything like that, and probably total numbers wise, they've probably had bigger games. But these were 2 of the best games, I think, of these guys' time in Detroit. Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff was just unbelievably efficient all night. So impressed by his ability to find these holes in the zones, throw the ball accurately, throw these beautiful touch passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who then converted them. And yeah, St. Brown just uncoverable in this game. He wins on the double move to the pylon for the touchdown. He gets the 4th down conversion. He was making tough catches over the middle of the field. I'm excited for our next wide receiver tier maker video. That might be the first tier maker we do on the channel. Going to be when I come back from Mexico at some point here. But I have my tier definitions for all these wide receivers, and my elite category kind of has its own definition. But I think it's time to make room for Amon-Ra St. Brown in that elite tier 1 group of wide receivers. Even if he doesn't really play from the outside and doesn't fit my normal definition, he's just so dominant that it doesn't feel right at this point not to describe him as an elite receiver and one of the few best receivers in the game. So huge slices of pie deserved for Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Another As you would imagine, for the offensive line, they deserve a lot of this pie, a hungry group there. But the offensive line was spectacular in this game. Penei Sewell had something I don't know that I've ever seen before, maybe with like Trent Williams a couple years ago, but Penei Sewell had a 99.3 PFF run blocking grade. Just I don't know that everybody realizes like just how hard it is to register that type of grade based on how they do their process. But just he was dominant is underselling what he did in this game. And then the interior of the offensive line played amazing too. Like Tate Ratledge had a breakout performance in this one. And the other two guys with Graham Glasgow, the center, and Mahogany, the left guard. They were awesome, just detonating the interior of the defensive line really all day. There was multiple drives where the Lions were able to just smash the ball up the middle of the defense, and that was, that's easier said than done against the Ravens. They asserted their will on this team, so the offensive line deserves some pie in this game. David Montgomery gets a slice here. Welcome back. I had some questions about like the knee injury at the end of the season, like just how healthy was he going to be? Because I think in a game like this, you felt the importance of having David Montgomery, obviously. Like he's just a different player than Jahmyr Gibbs. I wouldn't say he's a better running back, obviously, but there's times where you want to just run it up the middle and dominate in the trenches, and that's what David Montgomery is there for, the true thunder and lightning approach. And even Montgomery had some breakaway plays in this game that were big. But yeah, he's obviously healthy and looks great. That's huge for Detroit, I think. There were some legitimate questions on just how healthy he was going to be. So that's big. And then you look at the defense. The defense obviously was going to have a tough day going against Lamar and that offense, but they deserve some credit pie in this game too, especially Aiden Hutchinson, who benefited, I think, from the TFG curse. I am on a spectacular run of jinxing things. The second I say any criticism of a guy or praise of a guy, the inverse seems to happen. And we were on the live stream, and I was like, at halftime, I was like, just making a comment, trying to, find things to say about the game at halftime or around the half. And I was like, man, Aiden Hutchinson's been pretty quiet. Like, got to give some credit to Roger Rosengarten, the right tackle for the Ravens, doing a pretty good job on Aiden Hutchinson. And then about 2 plays later, Aiden Hutchinson, I don't remember the exact play because he had a bunch of plays basically after I said that, but he gets a huge pressure right after that. Totally worked Roger Rosengarten and flushed Lamar out of the pocket. Aiden Hutchinson took over in the second half of this game. He had a bunch of pressures. He gets the come from behind forced fumble on Derrick Henry, which was obviously huge in this game. So Aiden Hutchinson, I think for the first time this season, looked all the way back, and you saw the impact that he can make. And, coming out of last year, it was like, well, for the first 5 games of last year, he looked like a kind of Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, like tier 1 level edge rusher, right? Was just taking over games. But a lot of those performances were against like backup tackles and stuff. So it was at least a mild question mark coming into the year of like, coming off the injury, can he like sustain that and really like plant his flag? Like, yes, I am that same level impact of an edge rusher. He was in this game, right? So like, it's great for him to be back and look healthy and at that level. So he gets a big piece of pie. And then the last big piece of pie we have left, I think, to Kelvin Shepherd, who was showing some energy in this game. And I think too, like, they kind of cracked the code a little bit on Lamar late in this game. They started doing something that really made Lamar uncomfortable. And it was he started running these wide rushes, only sending like, 3 or 4, but really rushing wide and spreading his linemen out, where the Ravens offensive line started to kind of chase and open up this big gaping hole in the middle of the pocket. And Lamar naturally kind of started to step up in those situations. And then they left a QB spy to pursue Lamar. So that's an adjustment that the Lions defense made that the Ravens didn't really figure out. Like, they were setting the trap, and not just Lamar, but the offensive linemen were taking the cheese. They were chasing Aiden Hutchinson and company wide, creating this opportunity to really stunt the Ravens passing game. So they figured that out, and I think that was Kelvin Shepard, the former linebacker, like, understanding against mobile quarterbacks, sometimes you can do that to them. And just, they kept doing it until the Ravens figured it out, and the Ravens didn't figure it out in this game. So they started to get a bunch of cleanup sacks in these QB spy situations late in the game. So really an impressive moment from Kelvin Shepard as a defensive coordinator to tap into that. So that was big. And then the rest of the team just gets the leftovers. I mean, everybody else seemingly played well in this game too. So Detroit, just the utmost praise. They are back. They are right back in the top of the NFC and the NFL in general, with a statement. We are Super Bowl front runner type of win for Detroit. Now for Baltimore, I think we do need to remember that yes, they're 1-2, but their losses are to Buffalo and Detroit, two of the best teams in the league, potentially the two best teams in the league, depending on how you stack your top four. And the Ravens were highly competitive against both of those teams. So there should not be panic in Baltimore for me, especially from the offense. Like, the offense is going to be more than fine. There were so many, like, oh my God, Lamar moments from me in that live stream. He made so many unbelievable plays. They've got ancillary pass catchers stepping up. Guys like Hopkins and Bateman had a great game, and Zay Flowers was like super quiet in this game, but they've got him. Mark Andrews kind of reemerged in this game. Derrick Henry just has to hold on to the football, right? Like, that's the big issue on the offense right now, is Derrick Henry has fumbled in all these big moments, but like, they're going to be extremely hard to beat, and ultimately they will be just fine with this offense. But that said, the defense might be in trouble right now. And we saw this last year, and they did make adjustments and figure things out. They're going to have new challenges from Zach Orr to do that again. But their defensive line is not in a good spot. Like, they have to get Nnamdi Madubuike back. It's a neck injury, right? So like, we don't really know his timeline at this point in time, and maybe Ravens fans know more about it than me, but clearly they missed Madubuike big time in this game. And when it was announced that he was out, I did say, like, that is huge for Detroit. Like, that is a huge swing in terms of strengths and weaknesses matching up against each other. With Madubuike out there, the Ravens theoretically should have had the advantage on the interior of the line. But once he came out, we saw what those Lions interior offensive linemen did in this game. And unfortunately, Travis Jones, as much as I like him, wasn't able to kind of step up as a one on the interior in this game. He didn't play well, and then all the depth pieces definitely didn't play well. But it's not just that for this Ravens defense. Like, their stars are not playing like stars, and that might be the biggest issue for the Ravens. Roquan Smith was downright terrible in this game. Like, we were calling it out in the live stream, and then you see the PFF grade after the game. Like, I don't mean to obsess about PFF grades, but when you see it live and then you look at the grade to see if you confirm what you saw, he had a 26 PFF run defense grade in this game. Just nowhere to be found against the run. Was getting detonated at the second level, was not making plays, was bad in coverage. Like, there was a play where it was a check down to David Montgomery, and he's got him squared up, and he just completely is like whiffs on the tackle. So Roquan was terrible. Marlon Humphrey was terrible in this game. That much was evident. He got burnt multiple times in this game. Jair Alexander is out and not delivering when he was out there. Mike Green was someone that they were hoping was going to be a star for them. Someone that the idea of Mike Green was, well, he was available in the second round because of off-field concerns, but at least he should be a hell of a pass rusher for them. He's been a stinker for them on the field. So that's like kind of a surprise, frankly. And then, honestly, I didn't notice this one as much on the broadcast, but even Kyle Hamilton had a 29.3 PFF grade in this game. For whatever you want to make of that, especially as a run defender, he graded out quite poorly. So the tape graders at PFF didn't like what they saw from him either, and I certainly didn't feel his presence on the broadcast. So, like, their star players are not playing like stars, and that's a huge issue for them. The only guy living up to their hype on this defense is Nate Wiggins, who's awesome as a cornerback. So that's probably the issue from the Ravens right now is can they get their defense? Not probably. That's definitely the issue is can they get their defense straightened out moving forward? It was an ugly night for them on that side of the ball. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the Ravens is just like, they've got to find some confidence late in games. And I think it's, a lot of pressure there goes on Harbaugh, just as the head coach. Like, that's the team identity right now. This is a Ravens team that you get into the last 4 minutes of the game and you're just waiting to see how they're going to fuck everything up. Like, honestly. And they got to figure that out. It's not something I can tell you how they're going to fix it. They got to dig deep and start winning some close games like this, because and last year they showed too, it's not just against the Lions and the Bills that they screw this stuff up. Like, they're susceptible to blowing close games against literally anybody. So they got to figure that out. But it was a hell of a game. Very much enjoyed Monday Night Football. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll start with Broncos Chargers. All right, let's move on. Can't be spending 15, 20 minutes on every game here, so might pick up the pace a little bit here, but still an excellent game to react to here in the Broncos at the Chargers. Chargers win this one on a last-minute field goal in a back-and-forth battle between these two divisional opponents. So really fun game here. We'll start with the Chargers, the winning side of things here. Justin Herbert continues his spectacular 2025 run here. I think this offseason he saw all of the if man tweets, because he's really answering all the questions about him. He gets the big win against the Chiefs. He gets a big comeback win, fourth quarter game-winning drive, clutch moment drive from him. Those have kind of been the criticisms of Herbert, right? In crunch time, is he a guy that steps up and wins in those big moments? Not necessarily I agree with those, but that's been the comments on him, right? And he is just checking every box, proving everybody wrong. It's been really fun to see Herbert play this year. So he was obviously a story coming out of this game. But it's also been fun to see this version of the Chargers, like, with all these playmakers. Like, who are these LA Chargers? All these guys just having like a best case scenario season. I mean, Quentin Johnston's just like totally breaking out. He's discovered his hands and he's making plays after the catch. There's a play in this game where the Broncos are like going for the punch out. He catches a ball over the middle of the field and he just kind of spins out of traffic and gets another like 20 yards out of it. And then Keenan Allen has been like the perfect chemistry addition to this offense. There's a scramble drill touchdown late in this game that Justin Herbert has, where he breaks out of the sack, rolls left, and then somehow gets it out there. But we've kind of seen that all season long. Like, Keenan Allen has had that chemistry mind meld with Herbert in scramble drill to get in the right place at the right time. But he's been really clutch this year in those situations. He also catches a back shoulder chain moving catch in the game winning drive situation, which that's obviously like a chemistry throw, a timing throw to the perimeter. So he's been like the perfect addition, dropped into this receiving core. Obviously, Ladd still doing his thing. We're seeing less Ladd McConkey targets, which does make me a little sad because he's one of my favorite players in the league. But from the Chargers' perspective, it's a good problem to have. And Ladd continues to play well and be a nuisance to help keep drives alive. And you go from he was all they had last year to they still have him, and now they have all these other pieces. It's been great. And then even how about our guy Rondé Gadsden II in this game? Loved Gadsden, thought he was a total steal. He gets an opportunity to play in this game, and he had some moments in the preseason, but we knew we probably weren't going to get too much of them because they have Will Dissly and Conklin. Dissly was out in this game, right? So Gadsden starts to get some targets, and he absolutely delivers. I hope they're able to keep leaning into him because he had some awesome catches, man. He had 5 catches for 46 yards in this game, but they certainly were not all just like sometimes a tight end gets 5 catches for 46 yards and it's like, he did a check and release and he was wide open underneath, or he got completely forgotten about in the middle of the zone, right? Like, no, they were on top of him and he made some tough catches. He was 2 for 2 on contested catches in this game. He was clutch on that game-winning drive. He had a couple of catches on the game-winning field goal drive. I look back and he had an 88 PFF receiving grade in this game. So Rondé Gadsden was one of my favorite sleepers in this draft, and he looks like an absolute player. He continues to check boxes. So everything is working with this Chargers passing game. It's been really thrilling to watch. The only other comment I had on the offense from this one is it looks like Scott Matlock has gotten better as a fullback. I know this is what the real fully inflated viewers want, is fullback analysis, but this was the defensive tackle that they converted to fullback, and it's been fun, but like he hasn't actually been good at it, honestly. I feel like he's had a lot of missed blocks and hasn't really stood out as a fullback. He had a couple blocks in this game, one lead block in the run game, and he had a pass blocking rep where he ended up one-on-one. I don't remember who it was against, but he was just like looked like an offensive tackle out there, and he is 300 pounds, but he seems to have figured out the blocking aspect of things a little bit more this year, so that's fun. And then, the Chargers defense obviously does their thing in this game. They keep the score down and allow for the Chargers to come back and win this game late. They keep doing their thing. Jesse Minter is on a hot track for a head coaching gig. It's going to be interesting because it feels like most of the top head coach candidates this cycle are defensive minds, with Shula and Minter out of LA, Brian Flores, maybe Jeff Hafley. Like there's definitely some big name defensive minds. Joe Brady, it would be the top offensive minded coach. Anyway, that's another conversation for a future coaching carousel podcast. But they are such a well coached defense. They tackle well. They have good blitz designs. Like that's part of the McDonald's system, right? As you play that top down conservative zone defense most of the time, you tackle well, you communicate, you rally, but you do want to throw some change-ups in there with the blitz and keep the offense uncomfortable. And there was multiple blitzes in this game where they scheme up open rushers and flush Bo Nix out of the pocket. So just another perfectly well-coached game from Jesse Minter and company. So the Chargers continue to impress. They take first place in the AFC West. But Denver gave them a big run for their money. Like Denver made some plays in this game too. I think there's a lot of negative talk about Denver. I think a lot of people are, not the biggest Bo Nix fans, and we're expecting Denver to regress this season, maybe not repeat as a playoff team this year. I still like Denver. I like them coming in. It's, they've lost 2 close games against 2 very good opponents. I'm not necessarily worried about them. But like offensively, they've got some stuff to clean up. Like Bo Nix is not playing particularly well. There's a big tweet going out there right now that Bo Nix is the lowest graded quarterback per PFF right now. I certainly don't think he's been the worst quarterback in the league this year. I don't think he's played horrible, but he's not playing well. He's not playing as well as he did last season, certainly. There were 3 costly overthrows in this game. Those were probably the biggest criticisms of Bo Nix, frankly. Like, there were some opportunities to get those big chunk plays down the field, and he just missed those throws. So those were costly. Those were the difference in this game, frankly. So he wants those throws back. You gotta hit those throws, obviously. But beyond that, I don't think he's like making egregious decisions or anything like that. Outside of week 1 where he had some pretty ugly interceptions, right? And that's obviously going to contribute to a bad PFF grade. But there were some uglier moments in this game too, with third down, pocket presence type of stuff. One of the knocks on Bo Nix is he is very like first read and run-y. Always was and was in his rookie season too, where he kind of makes that first read, and then if he's uncomfortable, he's going to take off and run. And he did that a lot in this game, and there were some third and longs where it felt like there was a lot of meat on the bones to be had if he would have kind of just hung in the pocket a little bit longer. And the Chargers even started to kind of trap him a little bit, where they would overload one side and then have a spy ready to run him down. So the Chargers kind of getting familiar with his tendencies. We're kind of all over him a little bit. So it certainly wasn't perfect from Bo Nix. He's got to play better. But I also watched this Broncos offense, and it's not all him. Like, I don't really know where the easy completions are at. Like, the idea of a Sean Payton offense is to kind of like, have these quick hitting passes and the quick game and an easy, good distribution of targets to playmakers to help out your quarterback. And I don't really know where those throws are coming right now. It feels like they're either trying to push the ball deep down the field or they're throwing like bubble screens to Troy Franklin. Like, I know Evan Ingram wasn't there in this game, but in the last 2 games, they haven't really leaned into him over the middle of the field. Can we get some more slants to guys like Pat Bryant and Cortland Sutton, who should be really good at winning those quick slants? What about RJ Harvey? Like, they spent a 2nd-round pick on him, and I understand why they're using Dobbins over him in the run game more so, but like, where are the angle routes from RJ Harvey and getting him as a matchup problem out of the backfield? Like, that feels like something they should be leaning into more. Marvin Mims has been like, again, either catching deep balls or nowhere to be found. It feels like they have all these other options that they could be leaning into more to like have a more methodical passing game. Something to keep an eye out for. I trust Sean Payton to maybe get there. Like, they have the pieces to do it, but they gotta make some adjustments with this offense. But certainly not all bad for Denver. Like, the defense got back to playing well. Nick Bonito had an awesome game against Joe Alt, who's been a rock star this year. Like, paying Nick Bonito seems like a good investment for Denver. He's only going to continue to get better too. That's one of my favorite pro comps that have like translated to the league. Like, my Spider-Man comp on Kyle Hamilton has been a really fun application to how he's been in the league. And then Nick Bonito, my pro comp, was a literal bolt of lightning. And it's been fun seeing people tweet out clips of like, look at Nick Bonito's get off. Like, this dude is insanely athletic. And I'm like, bolt of lightning. That's who he is. Crazy first step, crazy bend. But yeah, the defense played well. They did a good job limiting those play action shot plays that the Chargers have taken advantage of the Raiders and Chiefs defense, but they were ready for it. They took that stuff away. They made things hard on the Chargers offense. Most of the Chargers' big plays, frankly, were Superman Justin Herbert plays with great catches on the back end. So like, I like the way Denver's defense is playing. I think they're like, J.K. Dobbins did look good in this game running the ball. Cortland Sutton looks really good. He made some big plays in this game. He looks like, in his prime. He looks really athletic to me. He had some good catch and run moments in this game. And then he was open 2 minutes left in this game. He was wide open down the left sideline. Bo Nix did overthrow him, but creating separation against this good Chargers secondary. So it's not all bad. You're not in panic mode with Denver. They've lost a couple of close games. They should be able to get back on track with a feel-good win against the Bengals on Monday Night Football, though. So hopefully that's a calming assessment for Broncos fans. But if Bo Nix does continue to struggle and, if they can't keep winning, like if they can't start winning games, like the narrative is going to shift on Denver. But I'm not quite selling Denver stock yet. They're just kind of on thin ice a little bit, maybe. All right, next up, I want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. And the Panthers, just a statement, like, season's not over yet win. Rough first 2 weeks for the Panthers, but they come out in their home opener and they beat the Atlanta Falcons 30-0, and they actually climb to second place in the NFC West with this win. So how about your second place Carolina Panthers at 1-2 here? We'll talk about the offense a little bit, but honestly, this was the Panthers defense stealing the day. Huge credit to Ejiro Evero for getting this defense to come together and have this effort. Really made Michael Penix uncomfortable in this game. And I want to rewind a little bit too. And, one of the biggest villains in the NFL is David Tepper, having lived in Charlotte for 6 months. Like, that whole town hates that guy. And like, obviously he had a bad run. Like, he had a really bad year when he was pouring drinks on the fan. And like, I get it, but I do want to give David Tepper credit And I've always said this about him, like, say whatever you want. He wants nothing more than for his team to win. Like, he was a part-time owner in the Steelers. He saw an opportunity to be the sole owner of the Panthers. He wants to spend money on that team. He wants to do what it takes. Like at least you're not the Cincinnati Bengals ownership group, or you're not spending any money, spending the right amount of money on your team, right? And David Tepper and company kind of played hardball with Ejiro Evero, where Evero was a ascending head coach candidate, still is, but he wanted out. Like, he was like, you know, there are so many better opportunities out there to go get a more talented defense and make a name for myself and climb the ranks. And unfortunately, he was under contract. And in most of these situations, when you're changing head coaches, the coordinator's just kind of sitting there hovering out in thin air. Usually the ownership will say, yeah, you can go do interviews. If you get an opportunity elsewhere, we'll let you go. So it's kind of a dick move for David Tepper to be like, no, you're going to be our defensive coordinator unless our new head coach wants to let you go, in which case, like, you know, Evero wasn't going to really have a lot of opportunities, because by that point, interviews have happened and teams are going elsewhere. But Tepper basically forced Evero to stay. And I would imagine in that situation, you know, I'm jumping to conclusions here, but I would think Tepper at least told Dave Canales, like, hey, like, we did this to Evero. We want you to strongly consider him to be the defensive coordinator. Like, we think he's legit. That's why we kept him. So again, jumping to conclusions, but I'd like to think that Tepper said that and voiced that Evero should be the DC here. No reason for Canales to not keep him, because he's very good at his job. And then also credit to Tepper, kind of on the back end of this, how many coaches and ownership groups would have looked at the Panthers from last year who had a historically bad defense and said, yep, coordinator is gone. Like, you can't have a historically bad defense in the league and keep your job. So many ownership groups would have found a scapegoat and fired him, but they stuck by Evero. And honestly, when you look back on this, is this not the ultimate sign of respect from David Tepper towards Ejiro Evero to say, we like you, we want to keep you, sorry, I know it sucks for you, but we need you, and then to stand by him when things were tough after last year, to have the awareness to be like, well, we took all of our defensive resources, Brian Burns, draft picks, money, and poured it into the offense. And I think that was a good move for them to do that. And they left Evero out to dry, talent-wise. It would have been so easy for them to just fire him and scapegoat Evero, but they didn't. And now, with at least, I tweeted it out, but I said, all Ejiro Evero needs is a little bit of chicken shit to make chicken salad. Last year, he didn't even have the chicken shit. He had something worse than that. This year, it's still a chicken shit defense, but at least he has a couple of pieces. Trayvon Merrick on the back end, some young pass rushers, a couple of corners that, you know, he's developed a guy like Mike Jackson, and J.C. Horn is a superstar. He gets Derek Brown back healthy. They add some other pieces to the defensive line through free agency. So, you know, he's got at least like an NFL caliber roster this year, and you get the first shutout of the year, right? It's not easy to shut out an NFL opponent, especially a team that has Bijan Robinson and Drake London and these guys. So, huge day for Evero in this defense, where they're playing hard, they're tackling well. You get some creative blitzes in there from Evero. I love what he's doing with Nick Scorton, using him as like this mismatch problem. He looks nothing like Micah Parsons athletically, but he's wearing the number 11, and they're putting him in there as a rush linebacker and getting him these creative looks. I was surprised he registered 2 pressures per PFF. I felt like he had at least 3, if not 4. Multiple spin move wins. He had a bull rush win, in my opinion. He had a rip move win, in my opinion. So I don't know what was going on with the grading on that one, but I disagreed. I thought Nick Scorton played really well and looks the part. Even Princely Uman-Milan had at least one good pressure. He had a good pressure last week. Like, he's contributing as a 3rd round pick that never should have been there in the 3rd round, frankly. Derek Brown dominating in the trenches. So, like, they're getting some good stuff from this defense. And yeah, J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson, they're a pain to go against. there's going to be matchups where, especially like Mike Jackson is going to lose. We saw this last year too, but he is like one of the strongest, biggest, most physical corners in the league. And like they kind of put Drake London in hell in this game. So like they have some stuff to work with on the defense side of the ball. And that's really where my mind went watching this game. Not so much the Bryce Young conversation. I mean, Bryce was fine in this game. That's really all I have to say about it. Certainly better than he was the first couple of weeks. He was off on a couple of throws. Certainly was not perfect, but did a good job running the offense. Really, the main takeaway from this offense is, dude, T-Mac is so good, and nobody who watches my channel, and certainly not myself, is surprised by that. But this is one of the all-time like NFL overthought it moments. Like I never understood like how he fell to the 9th pick to begin with, but there was a lot of like NFL insiders saying like, yeah, a lot of teams view him as like a, mid-teens, early 20s type of receiver. And I watched him. I'm like, how? Like, this is one of the best wide receiver prospects I've ever seen. And I stood by that with my grade on him. So proud of the Panthers for standing by that, for taking him where they did. Unbelievable value. Like, he was a top 4 player in this draft. Full stop. And he looks like it out there. And the production has been there, but not to the level of the praise that I'm giving him. If you watch the tape on T-Mac, it's coming, you guys. Like, there's been, in the first 2 weeks, he had what might go down as the 2 best non-catches of the season, where he just has outrageous efforts to come down with some footballs that, like, just barely didn't count. And what I really love about it is exactly what we talked about last week, where the Panthers have really struggled finding answers to the blitz. And I think my exact quote was like, well, you have your answer. It's right there. It's obvious. It's T-Mac. When you get blitzed, whatever route he's running, just throw him the football, because he's probably going to get open. And even if he doesn't, he might come down with a crazy catch. And that's exactly what happened in this game. The Falcons blitzed, and Bryce went right to T-Mac. And they even schemed up a look right to T-Mac on a 3rd down against the blitz. So, like, they're working towards it, but unfortunately, they were just off a couple times. So, like, earlier in the game, they get the blitz. McMillan's running a quick in route, and Bryce misses him, unfortunately. And then later in the game, they run a kind of a long developing screen play to him that I think was on a 3rd down, but they kind of faked left, and then Bryce comes back to the right. But by the time he came back to the right, there was pressure in his face. He had to kind of like sidearm it a little bit, and the throw was just off. But if they were able to complete that screen, it would have been McMillan in space with lead blockers. And he's been so good after the catch. That was probably the most underrated aspect of his game coming out, but he's shown that in the league too. And then there was a couple other near completions. He gets a deep post target that was almost there. He had to kind of go over the DB and try to one-hand it, and he almost got it. I don't want to say it was defensive pass interference. It was decent coverage by the DB, but McMillan was not able to get his other arm kind of through the coverage. But he's getting those deep targets. They're going to have their connections there. I know they will. And he also drew defensive pass interference on another over-the-shoulder target. So, like, he had a good game, but there was 4 or 5 targets beyond that they almost had. He could have easily had a 150 and a touchdown in this game. So he is awesome. And then also got to shout out the offensive line from this game. Huge question going in was 2 interior starters out, the center and the right guard, and they were fine on the interior. Cade Mays especially continues to play well when he gets opportunities. He's a fascinating player to me to keep an eye on, because he was like a 5-star recruit way back when, but kind of lost his buzz. Goes late in the draft. He was a tackle. Now he's playing center. Like, he's a big, beefy center. Continues to play well. So he's been someone we've talked about on this channel, but he just, like, seriously, like, out of nowhere, potential breakout candidate there. And then even Chandler Zavala at right guard, he was horrible as a rookie. But I think he's developed okay, and he wasn't great in pass pro, but he was decent in the run game this week. So Hopefully they can kind of survive with these offensive line injuries. And then Rico Dowdle, also a minor shout out. I thought he had some good runs in this game. Stood out to me. So we will see if the Panthers can go on a run here or if Atlanta is just that bad. But they have the pieces to do it and kind of capture this preseason hype that Carolina had. And with all these injuries in Tampa, things might get interesting. We'll talk about Tampa later on, but good week for Panthers and Panthers fans. I don't want to jump the gun too much. Let's see if they can come out and win this week against New England. But let's talk about Atlanta. What a just deflating, awful week for the Falcons and Falcons fans. I mean, Michael Penix had a rough day. There's no way around it. He had a really bad pick six early in this game, just working to his check down, misreads the coverage on a coverage rotation, throws it right to the slot corner in the flat, pick six. And, the second interception wasn't on him. His guy kind of fell down, so I won't put that on him. But, there's just a lot of dropbacks where they were just kind of ugly. Like, there's plays where I don't know that he's... he just looks like a young quarterback at times where he doesn't have all the answers against his own defense that's moving guys around and blitzing them and trying to confuse them. He looked confused at times. And even when he was making the right reads, unfortunately, he just was off the mark more often than you'd like to see. And that's been a thing with Penix is like the accuracy isn't bad. He obviously can throw dimes too. Like he's got a crazy good arm, but there's just a few too many missed throws on tape. And then you put all that on top of a guy that isn't too much of a natural play extender either. It just wasn't good tape from him. So it's not going in the right direction with him. There's no way really there's no other way around it really. And I hate to just totally focus on Michael Penix here, but this team really is going to go as Michael Penix goes. We've praised this defense. I don't think the defense was horrible necessarily in this game. They were put in a tough spot with how bad the offense was. But as much as we've praised this defense, they're not going to be a team that wins with dominant defense. I just don't think so. They've had some standout performances from the D-line, but clearly they're not going to be able to repeat getting 20 pressures a game like they were in the start of the season. So they need the offense to play better. I don't think they have any interest in going back to Kirk Cousins because you've invested in Penix. You owe it to yourself at this point to find out if he's the guy. So this season is going to go as Michael Penix goes, and he's got to play better. There's really no other way to analyze this game, in my opinion. So we'll just have to continue to assess him every week moving forward. But yeah, Atlanta falls behind Carolina in the NFC South as they fall to 1-2. All right, let's move on and talk about Green Bay's disastrous day in Cleveland. And this was a kind of a statement from Cleveland hey, you better take us seriously, NFL, because this defense is not playing around. Kind of a fuck around and find out type of day for Cleveland, where it was exactly what you expected from this offense. They could not move the ball. They were booing this team into the fourth quarter. They were showing shots of Dylan Gabriel on the sideline getting, maybe thinking he was going to come in. But the defense just kept this game close. The pass rush, this defensive line is absurd. I mean, Myles Garrett is... Micah Parsons said it going in. There is a one-of-one defensive player in the league right now, and it is Myles Garrett. And that's saying a lot with the level Micah Parsons is playing at. But he is just adding value to a football team that nobody else other than a quarterback can do right now. I will stand by it. He is the best non-quarterback in the NFL. And he was just all over in this game. And that was with Green Bay, allocating 3 blockers to him consistently. If you haven't seen the play where he beats Rasheed Walker on just the cleanest inside move, that is the play that they will start his Hall of Fame reel with, maybe, because of all the things that he does, the fact that he's able to move as well as he does at his size, there's just nobody else like him. And the ground he covers on just an out and in inside counter the acceleration and the ground that he covers, like, I don't know how you block that. Like, Rasheed Walker's a good pass protecting left tackle, and he couldn't even get a hand on Myles Garrett. And there's a clip of Garrett on the sideline mic'd up, laughing his ass off, because you can hear Rasheed Walker, once he gets beat, he turns around and he goes, "Jordan, run!" It's like backyard football stuff. It's amazing. But it's not just Myles Garrett, right? Like, Mason Graham and Malik Collins is like playing out of his mind, and all these other guys are flying around. Their pass rush is just a problem right now. And then it's on top of that, they have really developed as a run defense. In 2023, when they were one of the best defenses in the league, you could at least run on the Browns. And right now, like, the Ravens couldn't do it. The Packers couldn't do it. These are some of the best run games in the league. And they had nowhere to, both the Ravens and the Packers, nowhere to go on the ground. Like, they are filling lanes. They're playing disciplined. They're twisting and stunting up front, like making things really complex. Carson Schlesinger has come in and been a complete revelation for their linebacking group. Like, he's been fantastic. So, like, this defense, and their secondary is playing great too, by the way, with Greg Newsome now stepping as an outside corner where he should have been all along. So, like, this is not going to be an easy day. And it's a testament, by the way, to what Baltimore was able to do in the fourth quarter against them throwing on this defense. Because Joe Burrow and the Bengals had no answers. The Packers and this offense that's looked great this year had no answers. And, like, Cleveland's not going to be an easy out for anybody. And this was a statement from them. And they totally, all they did was just open the door for a late game collapse by Green Bay. And that's exactly what happened, right? Like, I don't have too much else to say on Cleveland other than they capitalized. They played amazing defensively, and then good on them for capitalizing on the mistakes that Green Bay made late in this game. And that was just a brutal Jordan Love interception. The Packers secondary, like, continuing to hold and make things easier on the Browns offense. Like, they just kept committing these defensive pass interferences instead of just trusting the defense. And then they allowed the blocked field goal late in this game too. So, like, a bunch of late game mistakes from Green Bay, and it just was just enough for Cleveland to sneak out of this one with a win. In a game where for 58 minutes, it never really felt like Green Bay was going to lose this game if you watched it live, because Cleveland could not move the ball offensively. So if Cleveland is able to get any semblance of offensive competency, and frankly, going against this Packers defense that might be the second best defense in the league or the first best defense, like, this might have been a battle of the two best defenses in the league when we look back on it. They might have more success offensively in future weeks, especially with these rookies contributing. Harold Fannin and Judkins look really good. This rookie class for Cleveland is outstanding. But if they can just get 16 points a game, they're going to win some games this year. So, that was the statement from Cleveland. As for Green Bay, like, what does this mean for Green Bay, right? Well, we'll find out. We'll see how they respond. Hopefully, it means nothing, and this was a learning experience in a trap game type of deal for Cleveland. Hopefully, that's all this was, and that this isn't a sign of, more to come from this offense that obviously didn't do anything in this game, essentially. They do deserve criticisms, though, for blowing this game, right? Like, every win matters in the NFL. The NFC looks super competitive this year, and you're hoping that this doesn't end up costing them in the standings by the end of the year. But they definitely deserve criticism for their game plan. Like, there is no doubt that they came out with the philosophy of this game of, call it whatever you want, playing not to lose, playing down to their competition, playing overly conservative, whatever phrase you want to go with. It was obvious that that's what their approach was. Jordan Love had an average depth of target of 1.7 yards in this game. And it wasn't really that he was, like, passing things up down the field. It was clearly, like, a lot of quick game concepts, bubble screens, like pop pass jet sweeps. Like, it was that type of game plan. It was the Packers coming out and having the game plan that you would expect the Cleveland Browns to have. There was one target of more than 8 yards in this game. That's insane. That's insanity. like from a philosophy standpoint. And the one target down the field was a completion to Matthew Golden. Jordan Love finally threw an accurate pass to Matthew Golden, and they completed it. But it was quite obvious that the game plan was, our defense is going to dominate. We just got to protect the football and score a few points. And this we're going to walk out of Cleveland 3-0. But you can't treat NFL opponents like that, especially ones with the defensive talent that Cleveland have. And hopefully this is a lesson to Green Bay that you have to take every opponent seriously. But yeah, they collapsed, and how they collapsed warrants criticism as well. Like Jordan Love, that was a big moment for the Jordan Love haters out there. Like that was an ugly, ugly interception. Just throwing it right into the teeth of the defense on a double slant concept. Grant Delpit breaks on the inside slant, and Jordan Love throws it anyway. And if all they do is, if he just pulls that back and takes a sack and Green Bay punts that ball away, I think Green Bay wins this game. If they force Cleveland to go the whole length of the field instead of 5 yards after Grant Delpit returns it back into the goal line, like Green Bay actually still would have won this game. And even after that, they still should have won this game because after the pick, Cleveland ties it up 10-10, and then they drive the length of the field really off of a play action boot. Like, I'm not even really giving Jordan Love credit in this game or for that drive. Like, it was a play action boot, wide open dump down to Kraft, and then he throws a slot fade, which technically was at that point, like the Packers were forced to throw the ball. At that point, he did have another target of 8+ yards, but it didn't show up on the passing grid because the play was negated or wiped off. Like it didn't count as a pass attempt because it was defensive pass interference down the field. And then you end up in field goal range. They line up for the game-winning field goal, and it gets blocked. And it doesn't just get blocked. It gets blocked and knocked back like 10, 15 yards so that Cleveland only needs a few yards to kick a game-winning field goal of their own. Anyway, just ugly day, burn the tape type of game for Green Bay. Hopefully a lesson learned for the Packers. They play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. I think most people are going to expect them to come out and wipe the slate clean from that and get back to what they looked like in the first 2 weeks. But if they don't have success offensively against Dallas, a very, very much a struggling defense, we're going to have some other conversations. So that's all I got on that game. Let's move on to Arizona at San Francisco. Gritty, like ugly defensive football game here. Hard to feel better about either of these teams coming out of it, frankly, especially with the Nick Bosa injury for San Francisco. The Niners end up winning this game late. And honestly, like, I actually want to start with Arizona because watching this game, like, I was stunned that San Francisco ended up winning it. Like, Arizona totally blew this at the end. Like, it was all the way through. It was just kind of like a gritty, scrapping for yards type of game. And Arizona was the team that was making the plays in the fourth quarter. They have an interception from Dadrion Taylor-Demerson stepping up in a big spot with Garrett Williams out. He's had to step in as their full-time safety. They've kicked Jalen Thompson into the slot. And that seems to be a good solution for them. But he gets a really nice pick. Like Ricky Pearsall was having a day against this team, and Taylor-Demerson, or just the Rabbit, is the easy way to call him. That's his nickname. Had enough of Ricky Pearsall getting all these intermediate throws, and he jumps it and gets a big pick. So that sets the Cardinals up well. And then you have the Calais Campbell forces a safety. He beats his man and gets held while Mac Jones is in the end zone. So you get a safety on that play. And after that, you have 15-13 lead with, receiving a safety punt kickoff. And it feels like the game's over. Like Arizona just needed a couple first downs, and it felt like, even if they don't bleed out the clock, like they should be able to kick the ball away and stop San Francisco, who had a hard time on offense. And they just weren't able to finish it. Like they had the vaunted 2nd and 1 with 2.5 to go. Like if you're the Niners, that's the worst place to be when you're in 4-minute offense and the opponent is trying to bleed out the clock, 2nd and 1 is like a death sentence because you should theoretically be able to grind out so much clock there. They ended up just getting it on 2nd and 1, which is fine. Like, you don't necessarily want to waste a play or anything like that. But I'm almost inclined, if I'm the Cardinals, to, like, if you're in that situation, I'm almost inclined to, like, take a knee on 2nd and 1. But don't lose yards on it. Just kind of, like, go back to 3rd and 1. Bet on yourself to be able to convert from 3rd and 1 and then intend to go for it on 4th and 1. If you don't get that, it would be bold to do it, but like you're in a bad spot is all I'm saying. At the end of the day, if you're the Niners defense, but the Cardinals do convert that, and then on the next set of downs, they go run, can't go anywhere, and unfortunately with James Conner out, that hurt the Cardinals in this situation because he's the heartbeat of their run game. And especially in those situations, that's the guy you want. But they end up in 3rd and 9. They pass the ball, and Zay Jones ends up getting the target, and he can't come down with it for the catch that would have sealed the game. So they have to punt the ball away, and they're just like on defense on the ensuing drive, doing the classic like conservative off zone, like I know that's the scheme that the Cardinals run, but situational football, man, like you're playing against Mac Jones. What do you think he's going to do when you're giving him 6-yard completions all day? And that's all it was. It was just boom, 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 field goal, you lose. Like really just disappointing loss from Jonathan Gannon and your defensive head coach in this situation. It's like, man, like that could have been a huge moment for the Cardinals to grind out a gritty win. This is kind of the identity that this team is going for. Like everything they've been building for with the style of offense that they play, being a defensive head coach, like a defense that you're starting to lean on a little bit more as they're adding talent. That would have been an identity, like culture building win to just seal that game with toughness. And it's just more of the same with Arizona. Really disappointing. Now, at the same time, the offense does continue to struggle, and they're going through it. They do not have an identity on offense, especially now that James Conner is hurt. Like, if they did have an identity, it was the run game, play action boots, James Conner being a big part of that. James Conner's done for the year now, and I'm excited to see Trey Benson. I liked him a lot coming out. I hope he can step up, and maybe he does provide some explosive juice and really breaks out for this team. It's certainly not impossible that he could do that, but their passing game is just not clicking. Marvin Harrison, back-to-back stinkers, frankly. Like, I think people are naturally inclined to blame Kyler for this thing not working. The last 2 games, at least, it has been Marv. He had a brutal drop in this game. He continues to not make those tough contested catches that you expect from him. Like, that was the elite of the elite trait that he had, was just ball skills, not dropping the ball, coming down with tough catches. It's been bad this year. It's been very bad. And they continue to, force the ball his way and get the ball his way. I don't know if force the ball his way is the right way to frame that, because I think they should be trying to get Marvin Harrison going, because if not him, it's Trey McBride and nobody else. So they have to get this figured out, but it's not working right now. They had another miscommunication. It's like every week, him and Kyler are having some kind of miscommunication. I think it was on Marv. It looked like to me it was cover 2, and Kyler's expecting Marv to get into the honey hole down the sideline, and Marv just peels his route off and looks for it towards the sideline. To me, I would think the answer to cover 2 in that situation would be to go attack the honey hole. So I don't know. I'm putting this one all on Marv. I know I'm Mr. Kyler Murray defender and all that, but I actually thought Kyler played pretty well in this game. There was a bunch of backbreaking drops in this game. We mentioned the one from Marv. DeMarcado dropped what would have been a walk-in touchdown. It was a good play by Kyler. He gets the blitz, drops it off into wide open space in the flat. Would have been a walk-in touchdown, and DeMarcado just drops it. I mentioned the Zay Jones inability. Kyler made the throw over the middle of the field. Everybody says, Kyler can't throw over the middle of the field. he made the accurate throw to Zay Jones. Like, that's the type of throw we asked Kyler to make. Like, if your guy has a half a step on an in-breaking route over the middle of the field, throw it out in front of him, let the receiver go make the catch. Zay Jones had it and then couldn't secure it down to the ground. And it's like, to me, this was on the receivers in this game, not Kyler Murray, and their inability to run block. Like, I'm not here like trying to elevate Kyler Murray like I maybe would have years ago and say he's like a top 10 quarterback and all this stuff. But I think he's getting a lot of blame for this, and I don't watch the Cardinals and feel like he's the problem. I really don't. So they got to find some answers. I think with James Conner going down, they have to change something. Vic in the Discord, shout out Vic, was saying Tyreek Hill to the Cardinals would be like a perfect destination. Some people, when I suggested that, said that the Cardinals are kind of all about building up their culture and not really taking chances on guys like that. Maybe relevant, but I think that could be a huge spark for the Cardinals that would make sense to go make a call about Tyreek. But it's frustrating for the Cardinals. It's like they're not a bad football team, right? But they just can't get out of their own way and seem to take that next step. It's more of the same. And then for the Niners, like, I wish I had more to say about them in this game because all of the praise I have for their defense is just instantly deflated by the Nick Bosa injury. They are playing much better defensively, and Robert Saleh has been everything you could have dreamed for with him coming in and just getting this defense back to a tough brand of football. I don't think they're going to go and just be a bad defense all of a sudden, but the idea of this being an elite defense or a top 8 defense without Nick Bosa, I don't see it. I just don't see the talent there without him. Like, Fred Warner is amazing. There's only so much Fred Warner can do. And, it just sucks. Like, there's no other way to put it. I don't know how this keeps happening to the Niners, but obviously the injuries are stacking up. I think the hope is, like, they can maybe have a dynamic shift where for the first 3 weeks they've had to be an elite defense, and they have, and they're 3-0 because of it. But hopefully, they can tough out these next few weeks, and then you get Ayuk back and Purdy back and Kittle back. And, Christian McCaffrey's playing well. Ricky Pearsall looks freaking awesome. That's the main takeaway from this game is Ricky Pearsall. He looks insane. He looks like a legit first-round dude, which he was, a legit first-round dude, even though for some reason people criticized that pick. Loved Ricky Pearsall coming out. He's showing it now that he's healthy and out there. So, that's the hope for the Niners is that they can become an elite offense once they get their quarterback back and these other playmakers. Maybe, but that's not where they're at right now. And at this point, it that requires injury luck for them to get those guys back healthy and for them to stay healthy. It just doesn't feel like that's likely for them. But obviously, they pulled through. They got the win. They climbed to 3-0, and that is worth praising. But at what cost with the Nick Bosa injury? So unfortunately, Niners fans, I don't have too much more for you than that. This was as costly of a win as you could have imagined. And it's not like they dominated in this game either. They had to pull this thing out their ass at the very end. But let's keep moving. Next up, we have Houston at Jacksonville. And Jacksonville wins this one 17-10 in another ugly defensive matchup here. Let's start with the Jags. I mean, they continue to impress on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like the Anthony Campanelli defense is absolutely working. They've finally seemingly tapped into their defensive line talent. Josh Hines-Allen looks back to his peak form. I mean, you go back to 2023, we were having similar conversations about him that we have in Aiden Hutchinson. Is he going to kind of follow up the year with what he had and turn into a elite tier 1 defensive player of the year type of candidate? Last year was just a disaster, and there was talks about they asked him to put on weight and he wasn't as efficient. He looks back. He's been dominating games. The rest of the D-line is playing well. Trayvon Walker looks good. Eric Armstead looks good. Love that they kept him. And then you got like Jordan Lewis was an excellent free agent signing. What a game for him. He was everywhere in the secondary. These linebackers are fantastic as well. Both the Aluakun and Devin Lloyd are having great seasons. So like everything's working on that side of the ball. It's been a while since we talked about the Jags defense like this. I mean, they're not quite Saxonville style, but this is not a fun unit to play against. And that's really without like, Travis Hunter doing anything on the defensive side of the ball, frankly. But offensively for Jacksonville, kind of the same story. Like, just copy and paste what we said about him last week for the most part. I mean, their run game, I think, looks good. And Byshell Tootin, I'm kind of calling my shot on him. Like, it's just so many shades of Bucky Irving. And it's not even because Liam Cohen is here. That's just an extra ironic part here. But it reminds me so much where it's like, you know, Bucky was getting carries behind Rashad White, and it was just so evident for anybody watching the game. It's like, yeah, Bucky's different. Like, it's not that Rashad White's bad. It's just Bucky looked different. And to me, Byshell Tootin looks different. Like, and ETN's playing well. Like, it's not to take away from ETN. It's nice that they have him. But, like, I don't know. This is kind of my fantasy football shot that I'm calling right now. Like, if you can go get Byshell Tootin, I don't know how many weeks are going to be left that you might be able to buy low on him, because he's breaking like the first tackle like every time. I think his vision is far superior to Travis Etienne, the way that he's anticipating run lanes. He's got the speed, but he's so much more than a speed player. And I just don't have anything else to say. Like, he just looks the part to me. He looks like huge. Like, his lower half looks like Michael Turner-esque. Like, Michael Turner had, for those that watched him, he had an extra junk in the trunk. But same idea, where it's like, how are you able to move that well and have that speed with that much power in your lower half? So, like, he is really standing out to me. But the Jags passing game is so frustrating to watch. There's no other way to put it other than just inconsistency across the board. It starts with Trevor Lawrence, inconsistent in his reads, in his accuracy. Like, he had a really ugly interception in this game. He's been inconsistent. All these receivers have been really streaky. Like, Brian Thomas Jr., like, his issues at this point are pretty well documented. His hands are an issue right now. Like, they aren't really getting anything from Travis Hunter right now, other than they threw him a screen and he outran the defense. Like, that was fun to see. But even like Diami Brown is injured and playing well one snap, then dropping the ball the next. Like, Brenton Strange is like the only Brenton Strange is like the only consistent player on this entire offense right now. He continues to look the part to me, by the way. Brenton Strange is a good tight end. I was wrong about him coming out. He has developed really nicely for this team. But until they can consistently pass the football, I'm going to have a hard time looking at the Jags as a good football team. But they are a very solid, tough out right now, if nothing else, for all the reasons we described. But for Houston, I guess more of the same for them too. Like, they cannot block. And it comes back to all the conversations throughout the offseason, the Tunsil trade, questionable moves. Unfortunately, the big investment they made was drafting Arianti Ursary in the second round, and he can't play. He's been horrible. Like, he needs to be benched, and I don't know what their answer is there. But with this lack of protection, like, Stroud's not playing well. Like, he is losing his confidence to me. Like, he's not seeing the field super well. He had a couple of missed throws in this game from an accuracy perspective. He had a big opportunity to hit Christian Kirk, like on a deep corner route near the pylon in a game-winning situation. He missed it. He had an ugly interception to Jordan Lewis in this game. Like, Stroud's not playing well on top of all this. The defense is holding up their end of the bargain, right? Like, we knew this was going to be a top defense, and they've been that. But it just doesn't matter when they can't score. And I was kind of in on the Texans coming in. I'm jumping off the train, man. It's not fun to watch this Texans team right now. and things are starting to spiral. Like, they just released Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Not that he was making too much of an impact for them anyway, but like, okay, like he wants to blitz more, and then you get in, like, him and the coaches are going at it, so they release him. It's just weird vibes with the Texans right now. I don't like what we're seeing, and I'm just kind of out until they show us some semblance of anything offensively, frankly. But let's go ahead and keep moving here. So we got Pittsburgh at New England. Pittsburgh wins this one 21-14. And finally, the Steelers defense steps up in a big way in this one, just forcing turnovers left and right. A lot of fumbles in this game. And, Cam Hayward had a huge day. Like, he was a superstar last year, and he brought it, that same ability in this game. He forces the Ramondre Stevenson fumble coming from the backside of the play and just kind of jams his arm in there, forces the ball out. He had a batted ball at the goal line that leads to a Drake May interception. Both of those plays happening like right at the 2-yard line. Like, those two plays changed the outcome of this game. Luckily they do NFC and AFC Defensive Player of the Week, because you're not going to be able to take the Defensive Player of the Week away from Isaiah Rodgers with what he did for the Vikings. But I would imagine that Cam Hayward will win AFC Defensive Player of the Week. If he doesn't, that's a shame. But he also had a sack in this game on top of all that. So he was unbelievable. Nick Herbig stepping up with Alex Highsmith out. He worked Will Campbell 4 times in this game for quick impact pressures against Drake May. Very impressive outing from Nick Herbig, who we've discussed as possibly the best number 3 edge rusher in the NFL. TJ Watt made his presence felt. They continue to kind of use him in the same way, and he gets a lot of chip help going his way, but he had some pressures early. He recovered the Drake May fumble, I believe, and then he also had a nice cleanup sack on one of Herbig's pressures. So he was getting into the backfield. I still wish they would find some more creative ways to use him, though, whether it's looping him inside on stunts or, especially once they get Highsmith back. I would love for them to stick Herbig and Highsmith on the outside and just see what TJ Watt can do, like lined up in the blitz linebacker role, the Micah Parsons stuff, what Nick Scorton was doing. Like, it's not just Micah Parsons that can win like that. I think TJ Watt has that skill set. I would love to see what he could do there. But I don't know that they're really willing to do that. But that could cause all sorts of protection gaffes with TJ Watt doing that type of stuff. Because right now it's like teams have kind of figured out, like, you can just chip help TJ Watt and kind of take him out of the game. Like, it's on Pittsburgh to counteract that. But yeah, as far as the Steelers go, like, this was much more of the image for this team. Play elite defense and then have Rodgers not have to carry the offense like he did in the first couple of weeks, because he can't do that. We know Rodgers can't do that at this stage in his career. But this was a game manager type of day for Rodgers. He makes a couple nice throws. He hits the big, his best throw of the day was the back shoulder touchdown to Calvin Austin late in this game. When they need a touchdown, he delivered. He threw a couple of really pretty fade balls down by the red zone to DK and Darnell Washington. I can't be the first person that's done that, right? But that's kind of that's like an it factor for this offense, frankly, is whatever you want to say about Rodgers, he does throw a really pretty goal line fade with touch. And DK is like catching these down there at the goal line. And then you have a guy that's 6'7", that can just be uncoverable down by the goal line. Like, if you just put those two guys left and right and have Rodgers pick which matchup he likes better, because you can't, it's hard to double cover both of those. If you do, you want some kind of in-breaking route from all the other eligible receivers, but that's a really hard play to cover down by the goal line. So they have that going for them, I think. But this is kind of what Aaron Rodgers signed up for, right? Was a 21-14 victory on the road. He did have another ugly interception in this game. He's got to stop throwing ugly picks over the middle of the field. That is for damn sure, because you're not going to get 4 turnovers every single week. But as for New England, Unfortunately, this was a straight regression back to more of the same, just ugliness from the offense all across the board. I do not think Drake May played well in this game. He had 2 ugly throws early that should have been picks, and then karma sounds harsh, but like the odds evened out because he did end up with at least 1 interception on the scoreboard with that batted ball that gets intercepted. That's not really his fault, but the 2 picks, like the 2 should have been picks early, were ugly. He gets the strip sack fumble in this game. It was just not a good Drake May game. There's no other way around it. So that was a bummer. But yeah, like Ramondre Stevenson, who's played well this year, fumbles at the goal line. He had 2 fumbles in this game. He gets benched in this game. Like, I don't think he came back in after that goal line fumble. Like, to make matters worse, I think 99% of people, when Ramondre Stevenson gets benched, most people are excited that he gets benched because now it's finally, Travion Henderson time, who's not been getting a ton of carries. Well, Travion Henderson comes in, and Antonio Gibson fumbled, by the way, too. So after Stevenson gets benched, they go to Gibson. He fumbles. He gets benched. And then the Patriots are like forced to go to Henderson. Well, you kind of saw why he's not getting carries, right? And this was what I tried to say with him coming out as a prospect. I was like, look, he's explosive. He's going to be great as a receiving back. But his vision is ass. He had DeAndre Swift-esque vision in college, and that was my biggest knock on him. He looked horrible. Like, I'm sorry, Patriots fans. He did. He was not seeing lanes. He was running in the backs of his linemen. He wasn't pacing runs. Like, everything you say about what bad vision looks like for a running back, whether it's running straight in the back of your lineman, not seeing lanes open up, not showing patience, it was all on display with him. So there's a reason he's not getting touches in this game or in this offense as a running back. Like, yeah, everything he's doing in the receiving game, although unfortunately he's struggling in pass protection too on top of all this. That was not something you saw coming. He was great at that in college, but that's limiting his third down work on top of all this. But, when he's catching passes out of the backfield, he looks great. He looks as advertised, but he's not. He was overdrafted, in my opinion. Like, he was not a top 36 pick or whatever. And I don't know. I hope he turns it around, but it's just what I'm seeing. I have nothing against the guy, but it was not a pretty performance. And he's also not a creative running back either. That was the other thing too. Like, even when he gets out in space, he's not a guy that sets you up with juke moves or spins around you or anything like that. He just kind of goes full speed and tries to run through tackles. And it can work, but it's like you especially see the lack of creativity as an inside runner. Like, when he gets caught in the backfield, he doesn't really have answers to get out of trouble. So, yeah, he looked bad, straight up. You don't often say that about a top 40 drafted running back, but unfortunately that was the case there. I think the defense was just fine for New England. Like, they held Pittsburgh to just about 200 yards of offense. So, like, they played well on the defense. It was an ugly day for the offense, though, and it just sucks because you saw what they did against Miami last week, and you started to get a little excited about this offense, and now you're right back to ground zero with them. So let's go ahead and move forward to the Colts detonation of the Tennessee Titans. They win 41-20, and they just got it all going on right now, man. This offense is so fun to watch. Did you ever think you would say that about a Daniel Jones offense? It's crazy, man. Like, even as someone that's defended their decision to go with Daniel Jones and saying the Colts might not be so bad this year, I didn't see this level of offensive explosion coming from them. I mean, it's just down the board, right? Like, Daniel Jones himself is like this. He's not playing like some gimmick right now. Like, he's doing everything out there. Of course, he's distributing the ball and playing point guard within this kind of ball control offense, but he's actually like, it's not just that. That's the most surprising thing about all this. Like, there was I counted 3 times in this game where he eludes a sack and does something about it, like either scrambling or stepping up and then throwing it. Like, he's actually exhibiting like pocket presence and elusiveness, which has always been his biggest weakness. So that's stunning. And then like I said, one of those plays, he eludes pressure, steps up in the pocket, and then launches a deep strike to Alec Pierce. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? This is nothing like the Daniel Jones we've ever seen before. So, I mean, he's like, what, comeback player of the year? Is that what we're talking about with him? Like, he is shattering expectations. I'm so curious to see if he can keep playing at this level. And then, like, okay, Jonathan Taylor is fully healthy. He's reminding us that just a couple years ago, he was the best running back in the NFL. He was untackleable in this game. He had like a Derrick Henry stiff arm moment. He has a breakaway run where he's like spinning like a bowling ball through the defense and goes to the house. The final dagger of a touchdown, he just like refused to go down, fought his way into the end zone. He's been remarkable. And then everyone else is eating, right? All these receivers look good. Josh Downs doing his thing. More last week than this week, but like Michael Pittman had a big game this week. Jaylen Warren looks great. Alec Pierce looks great. Even like they're finding little spots to get some targets to go towards Adonai Mitchell. It's just, even the offensive line, like some of the question marks there. Matt Goncalves is playing well at right guard. So they look insane. This game was a continuation of that. And then defensively, like, it was against the Titans, and I actually don't think the defense was unbelievable in this game, but they had some good moments. Like, Shavarius Ward had some good reps on Ridley in this game. The defensive line played well. They had 31 pressures and 5 sacks in this game. Granted, the Titans D-line is booty cheeks, but still getting some good production there. And, I mean, if they can really start to put things together defensively, if Lou Anarumo can, start to get better, as a lot of defensive coordinators do throughout their first year with a team, and they can just be like the 12th best defense in the league. This is going to be like a legitimate playoff contender that I'm not going to say they can go on a Super Bowl run, but they can certainly make Super Bowl contenders uncomfortable against them. That's for sure. So just super impressed by them. And then for Tennessee, like, they're an absolute mess right now. And it's frustrating because it's not even that Cam Ward looks terrible. Like, he actually looks fine to me. He's making some mistakes. Like, he threw an ugly pick six in this game for sure. He needs to be more careful working back to his check down. It's basically the same exact pick six that Michael Penix threw. And, like, he overthrew Calvin Ridley, who was open deep late in this game. Like, that was something I talked about in my game preview, was like, can they get Calvin Ridley open on a deep ball, and can Cam Ward hit him? And unfortunately, Cam Ward didn't hit him. The game was over at that point anyway, but like, again, he wasn't perfect, but I think he continues to keep his head above water, which is essential, because for my next point, I think we all know where this is going. Like, this coach is getting fired. Like, this is a disastrous head coaching regime. It didn't look good last year. There was really at no point where we felt like Brian Callahan looked the part as a head coach. At no point did they kind of have an identity or feel like they were building towards anything. And now into year two, it is all of the same stuff. Like, you just have to question, what is the identity of the Tennessee Titans? They don't have one. And like, they're having like messy game sequence things. There's a lot of penalties in this game, but beyond that, right before half, it's still a ball game, 17-6, with like 40 seconds to go right before halftime. They end up in a 4th and 1 on the Colts 40-yard line. Cam Ward is saying, let's go for it. He's telling the coach what to do. The right thing to do is to go for it there, in my opinion, instead of kicking a 50-plus yard field goal. But with that, the Colts actually take a timeout because they know they have a chance to get more points here. If they're going to kick a field goal, or if they go for it and don't get it, the Colts want to get some more points. So the Colts take a timeout. Brian Callahan has plenty of time to think about what they want to do. And after that, he takes a timeout. So the Titans take a timeout. You have back-to-back timeouts. He's still kind of indecisive. The field goal unit gets out there. And guess what? The field goal unit, after 2 timeouts, gets a delay of game. And they can't take a timeout because they just used one. So they get a delay of game. They get pushed back 5 yards. They still decide to kick the field goal. And they have the ball gets tipped. D lineman gets their hand on it. And what's crazy is if it was 5 yards closer, I rewatched the kick like 3 times to make sure. I'm pretty sure the kick, even though it got deflected and redirected, I'm pretty sure if they had those 5 yards back from the penalty, I think it would have gone in because it had the distance and it missed by like a few yards to the left. And I'm like, I think that would have been in if it was 5 yards closer because it was slicing. So that was just a ridiculous end of half scenario, the definition of bad coaching. And then you have like after the game, you had one of the Colts players, I can't remember who it was, but he was basically saying like, we knew, like we saw their body language before the game. And like, I turned to my boys and I was like, I don't think this team wants it today. I don't think they're ready to play. Like they could tell the team was unprepared and not ready to go before the game started. You also have after the game, like on Monday, Callahan announces that he's relinquishing play calling duties to his assistant. Like that's never a good sign. That's basically always the prelude to getting fired. They also turned around and just traded Jarvis Brownlee for nothing. Like what? What was that trade? Not that it's like the end of the world or anything, but it's just like why? He was a 5th round pick last year, looked good, like at least looked like a cheap starting caliber player or a great backup, like a good special teamer, like a good locker room dude. Like, you flip him for a 6th, 7th round pick swap after you just spent a 5th round pick on him last year. And it's not like this is a different regime. Like it's the same coach, it's the same front office. So that was pretty crazy. Like they're just a disaster. We know where this is going. Like Callahan has to be the runaway favorite to be the first coach fired. It's a disaster. But the one positive again is like, I still think Cam Ward looks all right. I mentioned his mistakes, but he made another ridiculous throw in this game, just like last week, except this time rolling left, where he's throwing back across the field and he puts it right on Calvin Ridley for what could have been a spectacular touchdown catch. Unfortunately, Calvin Ridley can't catch really in that type of situation. And then on top of that, like Alec Iomanner looks fantastic. He's winning back shoulder comebacks seemingly every week. He's been Cam Ward's like go-to guy. He's had some nice run after catch moments. He's looking like he did as a college prospect and proving that he was a draft steal. So at least like you at least have something to build off of with that connection. But I don't have anything else for you Titans fans. It's bad. All right, let's keep moving. We're going to be going a little bit of a faster pace through the rest of these games. But Dallas at Chicago. There we go, Bears. There we go. Like, maybe, just maybe, we can burn the tape from the first 2 weeks and pretend this was week 1 and this was what you imagined all along for this. Hopefully this is just the beginning for the Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson era. Granted, it was against a very bad Bears defense, but this is what you imagined, right? You got trick plays. You got Caleb having fun, playing accurate, like, consistent football. Like this is what Caleb Williams looks like when he's not spraying throws left and right and in full panic mode. Because I feel like when he's been missing throws, it always is like when he just gets flustered and it just feels uncomfortable and he's just like doesn't relax. And here he was relaxed, having fun, hitting the mark on his throws. It was great to see. You've got the rookies out there. Luther Burden and Colston Loveland made a big catch before he leaves this game, I think with a concussion. But hopefully they can continue to build off of that. Even DeAndre Swift was running pissed off. Like he saw social media making fun of him all week for his bad vision. Like he had a great game running hard. So everything was working for the Bears offense. It was really fun to see. And man, like Caleb, we know he's got the upside, man. He was spectacular in this game. The touchdown rolling right I think it was to Rome in the end zone. The arm talent on that throw, the rip and velocity on that, on the move to just hit it. And talk about accuracy. He didn't make it harder on Rome. He didn't have to jump for it, invite a defender back in the play. It was boom, right there in the hands. Didn't even have to really move to get it. It was a thing of beauty. So huge day for Chicago. And now it's about stacking those performances and getting this thing really rolling. And then for the Bears defense, like obviously they held Dallas to 14 points. That's going to look good on paper. They kept letting Dallas into their territory and then getting stops. Like it was a good high effort performance by them. They had really the standout from this defense was really two like high effort turnovers forced. There's the play early in the game that completely swung the momentum. Javonte Williams is like running out of bounds, and Tyreek Stevenson just rips the ball out of his hands. Like really impressive, I guess, forced fumble, strip, takeaway, like crazy high effort play. And then you have the pick later where Tremaine Edmonds lays out like impressive diving interception on a drop from George Pickens. So like I'm still not, even though they held Dallas to 14 points, CeeDee Lamb was out, the Dallas was moving the ball. I still have questions about Chicago's defense, but they made plays where it mattered. And the last thing I'll say about them is another big game from Gervon Dexter. Had a monster game, making Dak uncomfortable. 6 pressures in this one. So if this defense is going to have a chance, they need, somebody to really step up, make up for the loss of a Jalen Johnson. All right, if Gervon Dexter can become a beast next to Montez Sweat, maybe you can get a little bit more from your pass rush on this defense. So we'll see there. But that's everything I got on Chicago's side of things. As for Dallas, like, what do you want me to say, man? Like, ugly day at the office. No other way to put it. Like, the defense is a complete mess. Trayvon Diggs was just getting burnt early in this game, as he's been getting burnt all season. He was on the bench later in the game. I would love to hear from Cowboys fans. Did he get benched? Did he take himself out of the game? Is he injured? Just a disaster from this defense. The only defensive lineman that showed up in this game was Kenny Clark, and then he got hurt. So it's just like when it rains, it pours type of day. And then offensively, like I actually think Dak did what he could in this game. Dak doesn't deserve any criticism for this one. You had the 2 sloppy turnovers where Javonte lets the ball get ripped out of him when they're on a scoring drive, and then they're trying to drive again, and Dak extends the play. He hits George Pickens right in his hands, bounces off his hands, and it gets picked. Like, they were moving the ball, and then they got the ball all the way down to like the 1 yard line, and they stalled. So like they were moving the ball without CeeDee Lamb. Like that was pretty much all Dak Prescott. So I'm not gonna bag on him in this one. But yeah, Dallas is gonna have to dig deep, man. They are down bad as pretty much anybody right now, outside of maybe that team we just talked about in the Tennessee Titans. So that's all I got on Dallas at Chicago. Then we have Washington hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. Washington ends up winning this one 41-24 in what was just like a backup quarterbacks in, F you, we don't care, we're winning this game anyway type of effort. Like this was a team win through and through for Washington, just high effort, tackling and forcing missed tackles, just like raw football type of stuff in this game. There wasn't really any superstar performances or any one thing to truly point to, in my opinion. But it was all 3 phases. It was Washington running the ball hard, tackling on defense, and then special teams as well. They got some big moments. You have Debo gets a huge kick return out the gate, just bowling through the Raiders special teams. And then Jalen Lane had a punt return touchdown as well. But you get the Jeremy McNichols like effort run where he kind of peels through where he should have been brought down by the defense. And then he pulls away for a touchdown. You got some good runs from Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Marcus Mariota, you name it. And then, of course, defensively, kind of more of the same from Washington on that side of the ball, where they continue to just really be better than the sum of their parts. Really good team football, some good blitz designs from Dan Quinn and company. Bobby Wagner had 5 pressures and 2 sacks in this game. He was impressive. The one standout performer in this game, I would say, was actually Deron Payne, who looks good this year. And in this game, he had 7 pressures. It's the most he's had in a game since 2021. So he stood out to me, but you had 16 players on defense with a PFF grade of 60 plus. So what that means is like a 60 is basically an even grade. If you have anything over a 60, or I should say, they had 16 players who graded north of 60. So if you get anything over 60, you have to have some form of a positively graded play to go above that. And then typically you're not going to have a negatively graded play to go back below 60. So you had 16 players like making contributions on defense. And then you had, if you tally it up, they forced 18 missed tackles total, including special teams. And they had 155 yards after contact on offense. So it was just energy, FU, we're winning this game, our way or the highway. Impressive just team effort. Great coach, like great culture coach win for the Commanders. It was impressive. And if they get that type of effort when Jane Daniels gets back, it's going to be tough to beat. Like that's Detroit Lions type of stuff right there with the kneecap biting mentality. This was a kneecap biting win for Washington. As for the Raiders, not a whole lot of good going around here. I actually thought Geno played as well as he could in this game. He wasn't the problem. And Trey Tucker looks really good. Running routes, catching deep balls, run after catch. They've found something in that connection. And that's hopefully going to be notable if they can clean up some of this other stuff, because we know they've got short to intermediate weapons with Bowers and Myers and Ginty and Michael Mayer. But to have a little bit more of a field stretching vertical aspect, and maybe Thornton can give them a little bit of that too. But like Trey Tucker looks like a legit piece. He had a monster day. But beyond Geno and Trey Tucker, I mean, the defense was bad all around. Obviously, a lot of missed tackles. Like Max Crosby did what he could, but they did a good job taking him away. And then no one else really did anything for the defense, sadly. But the offensive line for the Raiders was a huge problem as well. DJ Glaze had a rough day there at right tackle. He's not going to be able to hold on to that job. And any hype he had coming out of his rookie season, if he plays like that every week. And it's not like he's going against superstars, right? Like, yeah, Von Miller's still pretty good, but it's 36-year-old Von Miller got him once. Dorrance Armstrong's solid player, but not a superstar. I think there was one other guy beat him too, like in that rotation. I can't remember necessarily who that was, but he was giving up pressure all day long. And then Alex Kappa, they got to take Alex Kappa out of there. Hopefully, JPJ, right? Jackson Powers Johnson. Hopefully he can get back healthy, get out there, because Kappa can't hang. And then special teams was just a total mess, obviously, for the Raiders too, with those huge returns. So ugly day for the Raiders. All you can really hope for, and that's 2 back-to-back ugly weeks, all you can really hope for is that Pete Carroll is a good enough coach to just recollect and focus this team's effort, because they are all over the place right now, and they don't have the scattered talent to make up for it. So yeah, they're in a pretty bad spot right now. But then we got Kansas City at the New York Giants, Sunday Night Football. Chiefs take care of business in this one. I was looking forward to see if the Giants could build off of that offensive performance from week 2 and give the Chiefs a run for their money, because as we know, like, the Chiefs aren't going to put up a bunch of points, and that's exactly what happened in this game. But like, if the Giants could just have an adequate day on offense, this could have turned into a really fun, like, football game where the Giants maybe could have pulled the upset. Like, there's a reason they were only 5.5-point underdogs in this game. But unfortunately, Russell Wilson just, like, there's no better way to put it other than he played bad enough to get benched after a week where he was almost perfect until overtime happened, and he shit the bed in overtime. But he was awesome week 2, and then he played so bad this week that he gets benched. I mean, I can't even explain what happened on those overthrows at the end of the game, like down in the red zone, trying to make it a game. Just throwing the ball at the back of the end zone 3 times, like, that is the type of stuff that gets you benched. I do not think Russ did this, and I'm not accusing him of this. I'm just saying those were the type of throws that make you wonder if a guy, like, is betting on the game. Like, because if they score a touchdown there, like, Giants would have covered the 5.5-point spread. Or maybe not. But anyway, like, it was puzzling what was going on. And honestly, I can't really blame them for benching Russ, because he wasn't doing anything in this game. He was just taking checkdowns all day long, and that wasn't going to be enough to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and you should know that. So I don't have too much on the Giants and their offense and their ineptitude there. I think Spags did a good job taking away Malik Neighbors, as Spags does a really good job at game planning against individual superstars when you only have one way to beat you. Spags is going to find a way to take that away, and he did that. And that's a credit to Spags, but a discredit to the Giants for not really having any other answers. But then also on like the defensive side of things for the Giants too, and Chiefs fans, I know you won this game. We just kind of got in a tangent about the Giants here. But like, man, where's the creativity and getting any sort of complementary coaching to the talent from the defensive line? Like, you haven't even noticed Dexter Lawrence this season. I know they're like trying Abdul Carter at linebacker, but it doesn't feel like they're getting the most out of the different sort of blitz looks they could be generating off of this, like running more stunts in games. You'd have to do a legit deep dive into what they're doing and what they're not doing to try to find better answers for them. But that's also like, that's Shane Bowen's job to do that himself and then show it to us, at the same time. So I think anybody watching the Giants defense feels like they should be getting more out of that side of the ball. And I know like it's not the defense's fault. They didn't necessarily play bad in this game, holding the Chiefs to 22 points, but that's like an average day at the office for the Chiefs. There's a world where you make the Chiefs more uncomfortable, like Jesse Minter did week 1, right? What did the Chiefs score week 1 against the Chargers, against a far inferior talent in terms of, defensive roster base? I'm just going back to look at this on the fly here. Okay, they did score 21, but wasn't it like, that was like a garbage time touchdown, wasn't it? Like, I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong about this. Week 1 feels like forever ago, but wasn't that game like 27-13 until like garbage time? I don't know. I'm not going to go back and double check it, but I don't think I need to sell Giants fans on the fact that you should be getting more out of this defense than they did in this game. So it's Jackson Dart desperation time, I guess. This was the worst case scenario when we looked at the Giants this year. We looked at their schedule. We knew they had tough opponents on the books, but I don't remember a first round QB kind of getting thrown out there as a pure act of save our job desperation. Like, I think drafting him alone was a bit of an act of desperation to kind of have this fallback plan to like buy you a little bit more time to sell to ownership if you're Brian Dable. But it's not like their offense has it figured out. Like they had a good week 2 launching deep balls against the Cowboys defense, but hopefully Andrew Thomas can get healthy. Hopefully Jackson Dart can play well, but I'm not going into this Jackson Dart start with a whole lot of confidence that it's going to work. We'll see. We'll see. But we do got to talk a little Chiefs out of this game. I got to find something new to say about the Chiefs that feel like they're the same team every single week. No explosiveness on offense. Mahomes like doing whatever he can to find offense. And I was impressed by Mahomes in this game, man. Navigating his own offense's deficiencies, right? Like, they don't have playmakers. They can't run the ball. Whatever we said about Shane Bowen, like, they were going against a defensive line that was getting some pressure on him. And it wasn't always perfect from Mahomes. There were some turnover-worthy plays in there and stuff. But, the deep balls to Thornton to kind of put this game away at the end. I think some of the scrambles that he's doing, like, he is doing what he can to navigate this situation and hopefully lead the Chiefs through these next few weeks with some wins. And then, hopefully when they get Worthy and Rashee Rice back, this can look a little bit more explosive. But, Isaiah Pacheco continues to be kind of like a frustrating watch. He's like running in the opposite direction on passing plays, and his vision is not good. Kareem Hunt is just extremely limited. I would love for the Chiefs, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I would love for them to get on the phone and see if there's any running backs out there, whoever it might be, that could help this team potentially. But they don't seem to want to go that route. They seem pretty happy with the Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco backfield. I guess on a positive note, we already praised Mahomes, but how about Tyquan Thornton, dude? Like, fun story. In an offense that's not that fun to watch, he is about the only thing to cheer for right now, is that and Mahomes making miracles happen. But yeah, I guess this is sort of a never wrong, just early situation. I did like Tyquan Thornton coming out. I thought he showed what he's showing right now in the Chiefs. I thought he showed that at Baylor. I thought he was, an incredible athlete with great speed, but like, pretty solid hands and not a bad like run after catch threat either. But especially like being that vertical threat in this offense, like he makes a really good effort to come down with the contested catch effort on the deep ball, and then they go right back to him, and he like goes over the defender, makes a crazy catch. Like it's not just the speed, right? You have to have ball tracking and hands down the field. So they've definitely found something in him, and he's been doing this through the preseason. So it is fascinating to think of, like, all right, he's there. If Worthy can get back healthy, you get Rashee Rice underneath. Hollywood Brown, I thought, would step up more in the way that Tyquan Thornton is. But if Hollywood becomes like your wide receiver 4, like this could get back on track relatively quickly here once they get their guys back. But yeah, like I kind of praised Spags' defense already, but it was definitely a statement game from him against his old team. I love the game plan to take away Neighbors. And the D-line, the two main guys on this defensive line, Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, playing what you're paying them to do. You're paying these two guys like $55 million between the two of them, and they've been quiet to start this year. And the Chiefs defense hasn't been the same because of it, but they combined for 14 pressures in this game, and well, that's how you combine that with a good Spags game plan, and you get a pretty dominant defensive performance, which we know this defense is capable of. So they kind of need those guys to keep playing like that to get this type of effort from this defense, but it's good to see them do it, and you'd like to think they can continue to do that moving forward. But that's all I've got on Chiefs-Giants. Giants are in a hellhole, and the Chiefs are just kind of treading water, I think, until they can get their guys back and start to put together what they think this team is going to look like as they hopefully head towards the playoffs, whether they end up winning this division or not at this point. But Miami at Buffalo, Thursday Night Football, winding back the clock a little bit here. Buffalo takes care of business ultimately in this game. They win 31-21, but this was a closer game than the final score indicated. I think Miami came out with everything you could have asked for from them. Clearly the worst team. They were 11.5-point underdogs. And honestly, man, like, obviously the huge mistake on the punt block that they call roughing on completely swings this game. Like, if Miami was going to pull this upset off, you can't have a play like that, giving a extra possession to Buffalo. But like, that's everything you could have asked for from a Mike McDaniel team on the road, short week, underdog mentality. Like, do everything you can and not start 3-0. Like, they were running the ball hard. Like, they were giving it everything they had on defense. Like, this defense just does not have much of a chance. And this was a continuation of the defensive line just not really been able to win up front. Jalen Phillips continues to kind of be the only guy that can get after it up front right now. You're wondering, like, where is Chop Robinson at? Like, he was so great in the second half of last year, and I don't even remember thinking about Chop Robinson in this game. Was he inactive? I'm looking back on the fly here because I literally don't remember. Okay, Chop must have been inactive. That hurts because I don't see him. Oh no, he played. He did play. He's way at the bottom there. Played 37 snaps. He had 0 pressures in this game. So there you go. Like, Matthew Judon is playing on this team. He had 0 pressures on 33 snaps. Like, they're getting nothing from this defensive line. And it was Zach Sealer, by the way. He had 0 pressures in this game. My God, this is bad. I didn't even prep this. I'm coming up with this on the fly here, but Zach Sealer had 0 pressures in this game and had the penalty on the block punt. So, like, that was supposed to be the only strength of that defense. We knew they had probably the worst secondary in the league going in. Like, their linebackers are fine, but whatever. If you're not getting anything from that D-line, you're actually getting bad play from that D-line, it's a disaster. So, anyway, they were severely outmatched, to say the least. But, there's a lot of, should McDaniel get fired? This would be a statement of why you wouldn't fire him, because, like, I thought the offensive scheming was good. They found answers from their offense, and the effort was good. Like, what else can you ask for from your coach? Like, clearly he's not the problem right now. It's your roster base, which has been run into the ground by Chris Greer, and your quarterback. Unfortunately, like Tua turned the ball over, strikes again late in this game. It was funny. I was trying to come up with my underdog lineup for this game, and I wanted to do a Tua interception. But when I looked, they didn't even have it because it's such a given that Tua's going to throw a pick. Of course, in a primetime game in Buffalo, he's going to throw a pick. And he just throws it straight to a linebacker in crunch time. Like, my God. I'm ready for Zach Wilson. Sorry if there's any Tua defenders left. I don't know if they exist anymore because it's just so evident that he's a bottom 10 quarterback in the NFL at this point. Like, things keep getting worse and worse, in my opinion, with Tua. Like, I'm not even really prepared to say he's a tier 3 guy, which is like a win-with type of quarterback. I don't know. Like, he to me feels like late-stage Derek Carr, bridge quarterback caliber guy that they're unfortunately paying $55 million a year. But, yeah, that Tua pick says everything you need to know about where they're at with him as the quarterback. Like, even on a good night for the team, he might cost you the win, and he did at the end. But I guess we're starting with Miami in this game, clearly. But that's really just like, sorry, Bills fans, I just don't have too much to add. On a night where the Bills did their thing, like this is Buffalo Bills football, man. This offense has looked like this for 2 full seasons at this point. We know what they're going to do. They came out and executed. Josh Allen was good with the football. They distributed the ball. The run game was working. The defense did their thing. Like, it wasn't a dominant defensive effort, but they did enough. Like, the one standout player to talk about in this game was Jackson Haas. Rookie tight end, day 3 draft pick. That was one of my guys in this draft. I called him probably the best run-blocking tight end prospect I've ever seen. And, like, that says a lot about this game, where the main, like, viral response from this game was Jackson Haas tight end blocking clips. Like, that's where this game was at. But dude, he is awesome. I love Jackson Haas, and he's an addition to their everything they have going on, because he's shown he can make some catches if you do call his number, at least enough that you have to respect him. But as a blocker, he's like an extra offensive lineman. So you're taking an offense that they've done the extra lineman thing, right? Like last year, I can't think of the lineman that they did it with last year, but anyway, they ran a lot of 6 offensive lineman packages to just ground and pound. That's the style of offense that they like to lean into at times. But now you can do that with a guy that can actually go down the field and catch passes. So it's just, again, another impact to the offense that kind of changes the math a little bit there. But that's really the only takeaway, is Jackson Haas is freaking awesome and should have gotten drafted a lot higher. Well, meanwhile, the NFL is drafting fucking, like, Terrence Ferguson in the 2nd round. Like, make it make sense to me. Like, Jackson Haas is an actual tight end, a good one, that had amazing blocking tape coming out. It matters. Like, you have to be able to block at tight end, otherwise you're just a receiver. So, anyway, good for the Bills for finding him in the 5th round. All right, let's go to Jets at Bucks. Surprising comeback in this game for the Jets. This game felt over in the 3rd quarter, and then you turned around after a blocked field goal for the Jets. Highlight moment with Aaron Glenn dancing on the sideline. All for naught. The Bucks end up winning this game regardless. But after that, you're like, wait, how did this game get close? The Jets actually take the lead on that blocked field goal. Obviously, a huge swing anytime you get that type of play. But yeah, for Tampa, like, I think they mostly look good in a game where they're out a million starters, and they just kind of did a good job getting out to a lead early and then dodging the collapse at the end. Like, different game scripts, different teams, different opponents, all that. But, like Green Bay, they went full collapse and did not respond. Tampa Bay collapsed, but good on them. They settle back down. They almost identical situation, right? Where they have the block field goal, reshapes the game, but then Tampa gets an opportunity to go back and win the game. They get back in position, they make the game-winning field goal, and they get out of town 3-0. So just kind of, impressive bounce back from Tampa, showing some resiliency. And Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's basically out there doing this for himself right now. He's on a pretty epic run of quarterback play right now. He's like taking shots at his former team, whether it's deserved or not. He's extending plays. He's throwing haymakers down the field. It's just a fun product to watch. Like the Baker Mayfield revenge against everybody tear is very fun to watch. So that stood out from this game. And then Bucky Irving also, like it's Baker and Bucky. It's their offense. It's like Baker bouncing off of sacks and making throws on the run and throwing heaters over the middle of the field. And it's Bucky Irving just breaking tackles left and right. That's their offense right now, and it's working. Like, that says a lot about those two players, I think. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to live in a world where, Baker's behind a shaky offensive line and you're counting on Bucky Irvin breaking 2 tackles every time he touches the football. They're counting on getting some of these guys back. I don't know what Gedeke's return timeline is. I think he's on IR for the next 3 weeks. But hopefully they can get their tackles back, get Chris Godwin back. Mike Evans now has a hamstring injury. Like, this team is just toughing it out until they hopefully no longer have to. But those injuries are really stacking up right now. So I guess it'll be fun to see if they can keep battling through this and keep winning football games. I think they got Eagles this week, so that's not where you want your team to be at when you have to go against Philadelphia. But the last thing I want to say on them is their secondary is awesome right now. With Jamel Dean, he gets the pick 6 right before half. Just a really costly mistake by Tyrod. If he doesn't make that, this maybe was a different game in the second half. But at that point, it was, the Tampa really pulled ahead. But you got Zion McCollum's playing great. Both these safeties. I mean, Tyreek Smith looks great as a safety. So I love what they've got going on that end. D-line linebackers are a little more iffy right now for Tampa, but not bad necessarily. Well, the linebackers might be a conversation. We'll watch them against Philadelphia. Levante David is slowing down, and Savasi Adenis, we've talked about his issues in coverage so far this year, so we might have to revisit that against a non-Jets game. But for the most part, like, I really like the way that Tampa's secondary is playing on the back end there. But yeah, for the Jets, like, resilient effort to try and come back from this game. They made it closer than it should have been, frankly. I think Tyrod did a good job responding after the pick 6 and, kind of taking what the defense was giving him at that point. I don't know how sustainable the short passes and the quick scrambles and stuff would be in a different game script where Tampa was up big and kind of playing that bend don't break style. But yeah, like, Garrett Wilson looked good. Breece Hall had a couple good plays in this game. Not a ton to write home about for the Jets, though. Like, you wish their defense was playing better. There will come a point where I start to criticize the Jets defense for not playing better. I told myself, literally with this team, when Robert Saleh got hired, because they were so bad for like the first month in the Robert Saleh regime, I told myself I need to give defensive coordinators more time to implement their system and get familiar with their players before I start to criticize how they're doing with a new team. So I'm going to do the same thing for the Jets, but there will come a time where we need to see this defense start to play better because I think they're physically, they have the talent to do it. But unfortunately for Jets fans, you fall to 0-3, things aren't going so great, even if you had a little fun trying to come back and win this game. But then our last 2 games here, honestly, not going to spend a lot of time on Minnesota, Cincinnati, or Seattle, New Orleans. Crazy blowouts that were over by halftime in both these games. But a dominant day for Cincinnati at Minnesota. A dominant day of defense from Brian Flores and company. Forcing fumbles, forcing interceptions, making Jake Browning uncomfortable all day. Like, just crazy disguised blitz looks. This was everything we've praised Brian Flores personified. Seriously. So, huge day from Minnesota's defense. We're all, I think, curious to see how Carson Wentz was going to play from the team that revived Sam Darnold. I thought he looked good. I did. I think He was making some reads over the middle of the field. His arm looked pretty live. He took a few too many sacks. That's something Carson Wentz will do. It's going to be a much bigger test this week, though, in a different game script against a much better defense going against the Steelers. But if he plays well against the Steelers, this is going to start to turn into a pretty interesting conversation. But it certainly was not the train wreck performance that maybe J.J. McCarthy truthers were hoping for, because I do think if Wentz plays like that for a full game, because this game was a half. This was a 1-half game. The second half was, press delete. It didn't matter. The game was over by midway through the third quarter. But if Wentz gets a full game and they beat the Steelers and he looks good, I don't really see a reason why they would go back to J.J. McCarthy, considering how bad he looked in the first 3 weeks of the season. But he's got a much bigger test this week against Pittsburgh, so I don't want to jump the gun on that. And then as for Cincinnati, I'm sorry, Bengals fans, I don't have time for you this week. If your team is not going to show up, I'm not going to talk about them. 5 fumbles and 2 picks in this game? Get the fuck out of here. Zach Taylor, I know it's not his fault directly that his players can't hold on to the football, but this team was not ready to play, and that's on Zach Taylor. So just a hysterically disgusting effort from Cincinnati, and I don't have time for them this week. And then our final game, New Orleans at Seattle. This is more of what we kind of expected New Orleans to look like. They were bad in all 3 phases, especially special teams. I mean, this was a special teams explosion from Seattle. You get the 95-yard return touchdown from Torrey Horton. You get the 60-yard kickoff return from Derek Young. And that was on top of Sam Darnold playing really well, the defense playing really well, and, Spencer Rattler looking more like we probably expected Spencer Rattler to look like. It was just a dominant effort from Seattle. Seattle looks good this year, man. They do. The Darnold, Jackson Smith and Jigba connection needs to be focused on, and highlighted. I'm so blown away. By both of them, especially Sam Darnold. I didn't fully know what to expect from Sam Darnold. I thought there was a world where he just kind of regressed back to, looking like a bridge quarterback they were eventually going to move on from. I thought there was a world where he maybe played pretty well. I didn't really think he would play as well as he did in the first 16 weeks in Minnesota last year. He was a legit Pro Bowl caliber top 10 quarterback for the first 4 months of last season. I didn't really think that Sam Darnold was going to be in there without, Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and a great offensive line. I just didn't. And frankly, he's back. He is playing great. He's pushing the ball downfield. He's extending plays. He's not really making mistakes. He's seeing the field. He just looks tremendous. So, a ton of credit to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks for betting on him. There's a lot of teams that I think, Minnesota included, are regretting not betting on Sam Darnold. But Seattle was the team that did, and it's looking like a great call. And Jackson Smith and Jigba continues to impress me. I thought there was going to be a floor at some point on Jackson Smith and Jigba as a really good weapon from the slot. Maybe something like a Jacoby Myers, a little bit better Jacoby Myers, or, something like that. I didn't think he would be anything close to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I still don't think he is as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it is the same idea where, he wins in the same areas of the field, over the middle, lines up in condensed formations a lot, from the slot mostly, but it just doesn't matter with him because he catches everything. And him and Darnold have a great chemistry as far as putting the ball in a position where either JSN's going to get it or nobody else is going to get it. They've had some really wonderful connections, and JSN was awesome last year too. He's a superstar, dude. He's unbelievable. And then Torrey Horton, on top of all this, he's breaking out, which that's huge for Seattle, because I kind of questioned the construction of this receiving core where I was don't they need a little more juice in there? And I was like, I don't think Elijah Arroyo is going to be that guy for them. JSN, he's doing it. He's winning down the field, but I didn't think he would do that. But like Cooper Kupp, probably wasn't going to bring a lot of explosiveness to this team, but it was like, don't you want like a field stretcher so that teams can't just condense on you and pile on around the, short to intermediate game? Well, Torrey Horton is stretching the field a little bit here. He made some big plays in this game. He's got speed. We saw that on the punt return, but he catches the big touchdown in this one. Like, him breaking out might be the biggest deal for Seattle because he would round out this receiving core in every which way that they need it. So just all lights are green for Seattle. And that's without even mentioning the defense, right? Like, okay, you're playing the Saints, so let's take everything with a grain of salt, I think. But you are out there without Witherspoon and Julian Love, and the defense is flying around. Like, Josh Jobe continues to play well at corner. Like, Seattle looks good, man. I was clearly too low on all things Seahawks this year. I mean, all things offense with Seattle. I did really like their defense. I just didn't know if the offense was going to hold up their end of the bargain, and they're doing it right now. And then for Saints fans, I'm sorry. I don't have much to say from this game, at least. Like, Rattler looked like a backup quarterback in this game. I don't think it was a complete and utter train wreck, but struggled to find answers. Couldn't really make plays, which is fine. Like, just that's where the Saints are at, right? Like, we figured they would be the worst team in the NFL this year, and they were competitive for the first 2 weeks, but the dam kind of broke in this one, man. Like, they had nothing to bring to the table, and that's not a huge surprise, frankly. I do wonder about the Tyler Shook thing, right? Because I figured they would start him because they spent a second-round pick on him and a top 50 pick on him. I understand they had a QB battle in camp and all that stuff, but once you become 0-4, 0-5, 0-6, you do have to kind of look at this rationally and be like, wait, why did we spend a second-round pick on him if we were just going to suck this year and draft a quarterback anyway if we're not going to play the guy? Like, at some point, even if he doesn't look good in practice or anything, I feel like you kind of just have to throw him out there and see what happens. And with Rattler not playing well in this game, I think we're probably trending towards that, maybe a week or two away. But man, I'm sorry, but that's really the only thought I had on the Saints coming out of this game, because on the field there is just not a whole lot to really say about it. But that's gonna do it. That was all 16 games from NFL Week 3. So next week there will not be a game recap show. I will be next Wednesday at the Cancun airport on my way home, probably eating at Guy Fieri's restaurant there, kind of a tradition on the return flight. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, for watching. If you're here with me on YouTube, make sure you like the video if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, or leave a review if you're a Spotify, iTunes listener, whatever it might be. But I will be on my way. Patreon, I will see you guys for picks here before I head to Mexico. And it's still to be determined if I'm going to be doing the live show with Garrett on Friday as I get ready for my trip. But TBD on that one. May or may not see you on Friday. Otherwise, it will be next week. But anyway, peace out.